break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. I'm taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't never. So let me break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never. You know I'm taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't here to make.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Opinions of the Uninformed. We are again talking about The Last of Us, as is a constant returning feature for us here, and we'll be talking about more video game things later. I am, of course, Firefly Zero, otherwise known as Jay. I am joined by my same two co-hosts that I always am. We've got TJ down the bottom there. Hello, TJ.
Hello, mate.
And we've got Rich over here.
What? How you all doing?
So, as you know, guys, how's your week been? We're here another week later. So what have you both been up to?
I've had a cool as hell day today. So a couple of my good friends, Matt Kelly and Samantha Salmon, they've just had a baby. So I went to go meet little baby Frankie Kelly, and he's a dude, man, he's a proper dude. He's there in like a Vegeta outfit, man, like proper gangster already. And yeah, then my mum's got a new puppy. So
fantastic.
yeah, to be named to be determined. So yeah, it's been a very, very cool day today.
TJ, anything been going on with you the week, mate?
Work stream. I did go to the cinema to see Puss in Boots with the family. Daughter loved it.
Any good?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. So, in all honesty, not seen the first one. Seen the Shrek films, but I never seen the first Puss in Boots. But my daughter has, so pretty cool. It's kind of what I'd expect from from DreamWorks and stuff, but no, yeah, thoroughly enjoyable. If you're into those kind of films, would definitely recommend it. My daughter absolutely loved it. But yeah, and other than that, just streaming and family home life. Just chilled, really.
Rich, you look like you got a point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually really want to watch Puss in Boots because I've heard really good things. Like, I saw one of the fights, and it was like something. He's on a rooftop fighting a giant.
Yeah,
and I
an
swear
ogre,
to
yeah.
God, it's out of Attack on Titan, man. Like, it's just unreal.
Yeah.
And everything I've heard is like the big bad wolf in it is apparently a really good cinematic villain, man.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be like really, really well made. So I'm actually quite interested. I really want to see it.
What I quite liked, actually, which was a little bit different, and I don't know if it was in the first one or not, was the change of animation style during like the fight scenes.
Yeah.
So they'd have they're walking, they're talking, they're doing the general bits and pieces, and then when they get in the fight scenes, it's very much like he's doing like a super fast dash, and the animation style of it would change into like
you say it was anime or
into a more kind of what I would expect, very much
it's more stylized.
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
So if somebody's dashing, you'll have like the lines,
the whoosh, the whoosh, and it's just even the way it's actually drawn look like it is different. Like I say,
it's almost like it's like, remember when games were cel shaded?
Yeah.
It sort of takes like a 3D CGI approach to cel shading, as opposed to the normal DreamWorks style. It becomes more like something, say, like more leaning towards like Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. I thought that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool like change up to do, like from say like what was in the normal Shrek films and stuff. And it just made it visually that little bit more appealing. It throwing like the mix together. It was really good.
Cool.
And obviously the comedy's always there with those DreamWorks films.
Well, I mean, DreamWorks, they do make decent comedies with the Shrek films, and of course it is a Shrek spin-off.
How's your week been then, Mush?
My week has been fine. I went to some Draken Tunnel, so I went through an old World War II. In World War II, it was a place where they made engines for planes. It's under a massive hill over where we live, over this side. So we had a tour around there. It got turned into a nuclear bunker during the Cold War. So that was interesting to do. Then I went on to the Anime Con, which I'm going to go tomorrow with my co-host Rich. I got a little bit of a story from there. So I found, I don't know if any of you know Kingdom Hearts the game, but Kingdom Hearts the game, they had a Goofy in the Tron outfit. I don't know if you remember that, Rich.
Yeah.
Right, so I had Tron Goofy, tenner, bonus. Wasn't going to grumble at all.
Win.
I went to go and get some beers, and I was taking photos of people in their anime get-up. So I got 2 beers, and I put my model on the floor, took my photos, and some dude in a red wolf mask just trundled straight through the fucking toy, straight through the beers, kicked them all over the place. £6 a beer, keep in mind.
Oh,
£6 a beer,
yeah.
right? And you'd think that's That's your one bad luck thing of the day, Jay. There's no chance
Yeah.
that anything else. No, you'd be fucking wrong. So what happened next was we went down to where the stage was and someone was performing.
Did you go to the side of the geezer, yo? Well, shit.
Yeah,
What
I
you
did,
doing?
but like he's a kid, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm like, yeah, don't worry, it's all fine, it's all fine. Inside, I'm steaming.
Yeah, drop
The
kick you up the
rage.
car park, man. I'm telling you, I got no chance.
Like I felt like Vegeta after he'd just been beaten by fucking Goku, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
But so yeah, so I go down. I'm sitting down. I'm watching this geezer. I put my toy down. It's covered in beer, but you know it's in a box. Everything's
Yeah.
fine. No issue. I made a fatal error though. I'm in Birmingham. So I put the toy down and I moved away from my seat for all of 5 minutes. Then-
Rob, yeah.
Then a fire alarm goes off in the building. So they start saying everyone's got to evacuate. So I walk towards my chair. Is my toy there? Is it bollocks? No, it's Birmingham. Someone saw an opportunity, saw something set by. It's gone. Now it's only a
Right.
tenner. But I was
It's
That
not
ain't
the
the fucking
point.
point,
Not
man.
the
That ain't the
point.
point. Someone took my shit.
Exactly. My mate's laughing because like he was meant to watch it, although he didn't know he was meant to watch it.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Not cool, man. Not
Yeah,
cool.
so that was my anyway. That was my little anecdotal of today. I thought let's remind everyone that people in Birmingham are scum. Just remember that, kids. People in Birmingham, scum.
Scum.
I'm
Well,
a
look at
Brummie.
what happened when Tom Cruise came here. You know what I mean? Tom Cruise came here
Yeah.
to film something, and all his shit just got jacked on the first night he was here. You know, like, didn't his car get robbed and everything,
Yeah,
stolen
his car
from it
got
and
robbed.
everything? Because like, Brummie don't play.
Yeah.
You know,
You left it
Birmingham
there
just
too
don't
long,
play.
mush. I don't know your face. It's being
Yeah.
robbed.
Wow. Wow.
What to say here, TJ? Don't come to Birmingham, mate.
Oh,
Stay
trust,
here.
it's
trust,
like-
trust,
real, man.
trust. When I was planning,
Real.
when I was thinking about doing the meetup, I was like, "Oh, Birmingham's middle of the country." Yeah, big X through that though. We're not
Nah,
going
it's
anywhere near
not in there.
Birmingham.
Yeah.
Burn that place out. Right. So there you go. That's just a little bit about what we've been up to this week. So let's get into the TV show. Right now, I don't know about you, Pear, but I really enjoyed the last. I mean, I enjoyed the entire show, but those last 15 minutes felt very true to the game. Things have changed from the game. I'm not saying it's completely thingy, but the sniper scene. Right. I will get more into it now later on when we're all touching on it. But tell me, what did you think of the show, guys? I'll move it on to TJ. Looked like he was desperate.
No. I am quite happy because of certain comments made before we started rolling to pass this on to Rich, and then I'll pick up because Rich does have a theory that we may not agree. So I would like to hear Rich's opinion first.
Right, just before we get into Rich telling us, let me just do a little bit of housekeeping on this. So this, of course, is episode 5 of The Last of Us: Endure and Survive. You can find it on, of course, if you're in America, HBO Max, or in the UK, I think it's on Sky
Atlantic.
Atlantic, yes, that's the one. I forget. I'm a Sky One person. In my eyes, it was all Sky One, and I don't know why they changed it. Alas. Anyway, Rich, tell me about it. Tell me about Endure and Survive.
So, some of the moments in particular, like you were saying, the sniper scene, the sniper scene where he was shooting the car was horseshit, and I'll get to something that'll get to my overall points in a bit. Sniper scene where he was covering her is one of the coolest fucking things I've ever seen. Such a good interpretation of the game into a TV medium. I love the end, like the last sort of couple of minutes, because the effects of the episode had such a pivotal effect on both Joel and Ellie, and it was such a contrasting effect. So it hardened Ellie but softened Joel. You know, so they were both sort of along here on the spectrum, and they're both gradually being brought closer together, which I think is absolutely amazing. However, that being said, the majority of the episode I actually think is the one big misstep we've had in the show so far. there was a lot of it I just flat out really didn't like. I thought a lot of it was way too Hollywood cliche, like the whole shooting the car and oh my god, the same deal with the lighter. The last possible shot I could get to stop the car before it kills them all. I managed to do it. Ray, amazing. The whole infected thing just felt really superfluous and just kind of sort of it felt like a get out course for them. You're sort of stuck into this, you're backed into this corner, and you need a way to survive. Here's a load of infected and a bloater. Where, this I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this. I don't think they handled him being deaf particularly well at all. I think it was used as quite a cheap way to kind of almost bully you into sympathising with the character. I think a much more effective way to do it is the way the game did it. So, you have that point in the game where they're fleeing through the tunnels and you split, but your guardians split. So as Joel, you're looking after like Harry, and then the older brother's looking after sort of Ellie, and that's amazing because that builds such a connection, and you get this really almost double fear. You're like, oh my god, I've got to protect somebody else's, and fuck me, if anything happens to Ellie, that one's dead. I think that would have just been a much better way to do it. I feel like they didn't write the deaf child particularly well. He just felt like a victim throughout the entirety of the show. Right. And when he was introduced, I thought you could do something cool with this, because the idea of having that sort of issue in a sort of apocalyptic scenario, that's horrible. That's a fucking terrifying thought. It's terrifying enough as it is. With that added on top, oh my god. But I feel like, I just feel like they just played him as like a victim the entirety of the way, and I just feel it was a bit of a cheap shot in a way.
Just a little bit of housekeeping on Kevin Woodard, which is the child that played Sam. He is in fact deaf, so he's a deaf actor.
Yeah,
like,
there's
not that matters. I'm just saying that like they did choose an actual deaf actor. I think we spoke about this last week about they've got to be careful with this over inclusionary. I'm not saying that deaf people shouldn't be represented before that happens. It's just that at the moment we're following an adaptation of a game, and like Rich said, I will say that a deaf kid in apocalypse, it's an interesting tale. It is an interesting tale. However, I don't think it really add or subtracted anything from this episode in being deaf.
As I say, I just feel it was a really cheap way for you to instantly go, oh, and sort of almost guilt you into feeling sympathy for the inevitable end sequence of it, like something like A Quiet Place handled the use of sound in an apocalyptic thing really, really well and interestingly, and I feel like you could have maybe taken some ideas from that or something like that.
You run the risk of people saying like, "Oh, you're copying last."
And I'm not saying I wanted him to be some sort of blind ninja like Daredevil, backflipping around fucking mans up left, right, and centre, because I don't particularly want that either. But it genuinely felt like he was just, as I say, victim. One thing I loved though, before I let somebody else talk, because I've babbled for about 5 minutes, is I love the use of the magic pen. Like that was so fucking cool. Brilliant.
For me, that was a great callback to like childhood, and I was going, "Fuck, man, you don't see those anymore." And
the mixture between those sorts of things and the over Hollywood sort of thing, I was a bit like, through some of this one.
Just a point in before I let TJ go. Is
I love the smirk on his face, man. I can't wait to hear.
I will say, I like the Hollywood action of the bloater and all the infected, because I think the episode needed a threat that wasn't just those the rebellion.
I think they're a more interesting threat though. The rebellion are. I think they're far more interesting threat.
I don't know, man. She came across very one-dimensional for me.
She was like, there's something weird with her. She scared me, man. Like there was something really
she's a good actor.
Yeah, she plays like batshit crazy really well. She's either the best actress ever, or like someone might need to go and like check on her and make sure she's all right. Like, you know what I mean?
Check her basement. Just see where them postmen have gone. Just see where the postmen are. That's all I'm saying. Just have a look.
Yeah, come on, TJ.
Yeah, sorry, TJ.
So,
carry on, mate.
Just before I get into that, I just wanted to go back with on the actress that you're talking about there.
Melanie Linsky.
Yeah. So talking about her playing crazy and stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen 2.5 Men, but she's in that, and she's like the neighbor who's obsessed with Charlie Sheen's character, who like won't leave him alone, and she's always there. Rose, I believe her name is, if I remember that rightly. Yeah. She's got that role down to a T. The kooky nut job. Don't really know. Like, you look at her on one side of her face and think, oh, okay, she's pleasant, she's sweet, she's nice. Then you look on the other side and you think, I think I might need to just make sure I don't leave any sharp objects around her.
Like, honestly, anytime she's looking at a character, all I can hear is I'm like, oh, the fuck are you, man?
But
he was actually in Castle Rock as well. I don't know if any of you ever watched.
I never watched Castle Rock. No.
Castle Rock was very, very well. First season was very, very good adaptation of someone building a Stephen King.
I was going to say, was that a Stephen King thing?
Yeah,
it was like a Stephen King town, like
so universe, Stephen King. You know,
so all of his
characters were lived in the town. Oh, okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
The Stephen King universe, cool, gotcha. Right. My thoughts on the okay. It's really interesting. It's really interesting because we do and we don't disagree on a lot. Okay. So one thing I will have to say is that I do have to give them props because I feel like we all know, I've spoken about it several times. I have literally recently just replayed through the game, so the game is completely fresh in my mind, as opposed to people who may have played it a couple of years ago, whatever. I don't know.
Definitely interested in your opinion of that because I haven't played it for
a long time.
It's obviously like it's more clear to me bits and pieces that have been picked up on, bits and pieces that have been dropped, and other things. And I kind of. Right, so
no.
Okay, firstly,
spit it out.
I feel the way that they are able to just pull at all the different emotions, just like the game does, is so fantastic. You know, like when we have the test thing was weak. I will say that. They messed that up. We agree on that. They messed that up. But everything else, they've got, like, spot on. The Sarah issue, it's, like, just heartbreaking. The Sam thing is just horrendous.
We'll get into that. We'll get into the elephant in the room about Sam and his brother Henry.
And then how they, you know, went in a different direction with Frank and Bill and what they done with that. Amazing. Like, you know, just some brilliant moment. However this series goes, like, the fundamental things that I will remember are those moments that really, like, they just tear you down. They rip you to pieces. Because I don't think that there is anything else that I've watched recently that has done it as much and as often and as well as this series has done.
Agreed.
What they're managing to do in 45 minutes every episode is impressive.
Oh, yeah,
regardless.
Spectacular storytelling.
But, right, so, now that aside, the series.
Yeah, all right.
I don't want to come across as an asshole, but I have no idea why they needed to make Sam deaf. None at all. It made no sense to me because it, like you say, did not add, it did not subtract from the story at all.
No.
It's a 45-minute episode. They don't flush out a character. They don't really flush out his character in the game.
No.
It's just a brother, two brothers, older brother looking after his younger brother. They're trying to escape. They've obviously changed the storyline because in the game the narrative is they're just a group. We don't find out that they are conspirators with what's the word when you rats, yeah, but no, when they were working with the federal, whatever it was,
informants or informants.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So obviously that's a new dynamic, and that kind of, you know, okay, you can kind of understand, and you kind of sympathise a little bit with Kathleen's character in like her brother is dead because of Henry's decisions, choices, options, you know. So you kind of do get a little bit of sense of like you feel sorry for her a little bit, and you're like kind of sympathy, but I don't get where they didn't even like the whole little bit about like when they go into the loft and the doctor's there and he's like, "Oh, he looks scared because you're scared." No, it just fell flat for me. The whole interactions between Henry and Sam fell flat, but the interactions between Ellie and Sam were amazing. Like they were on point to the game. They were fantastic, and it almost felt as if like, do you know what? They don't even need Henry. Like at points in this story, it's like other than the fact that he kind of just seemed a wasteful use of a character. Like his little 2-minute conversations with Joel were just a bit like okay, a bit mundane, a bit just par for the course. But I do agree that the scene in the tunnels, it's completely taken away from what happens in the game. Yes, they find the school, but there are hordes of the infected down there. Now, you don't have to have hordes, but a key part of that is the fact that they get split up. And you see, like Joel, and that also kind of solidifies Joel and Ellie's relationship as well, because he's lost her technically for a period of time, and when they come back, it's like, oh, she's back, I've got her, she's safe, you know, and the relief that washes over him.
There, where she comes back and she's like, I killed 2 of them, and like you're really proud, but you're also devastated that she had to do that as well.
And I feel they missed a trick with that. With just now, I get they've got 45 minutes, they don't have an hour and a half, so it's a lot to pack in. But
that was also an hour though. That was an hour.
Oh, an hour. But okay, but then that also leads back to the conversation we had last week about, are they going to rush through stuff too quickly? Did they need to make this 12 episodes instead of 9 so they could flush parts of the story out, and like so they don't have to just chop bits here willy-nilly? Because there's still so much. There is still so much. Well, it's been a concern for us for a number of weeks, hasn't it?
I'm very concerned about that.
But I did like how they did just to get into the last bit, the when they're in the next town and they've got the sniper. That sniper bit was a little bit off. And yes, you've got the Hollywood. It was, you know, like say, oh no, my gun's jammed. Oh, and you're just like, we know. I mean, let's be honest. We all know he's not going to go. Oh shit, I don't get it unjammed, and Ellie gets run over. That's not going to happen. We all know what's going to happen. It's like Michael Bay took over directing for 5 minutes.
For real.
Like, you know, where it drives through the car and there's the explosion. Michael Bay took time out for Transformers 76 to do like a cameo. But
on a completely unrelated note, I'm only saying this because you said that the fucking new Transformers Super Bowl trailer is immense. It's so good.
But it is going to be too over the top.
I haven't seen the Super Bowl. I did watch the Super Bowl, but I didn't watch the trailers.
But yeah, there were parts of it I loved and parts of it I felt fell flat. But like I say, the things I can take away from it are the feelings that it gave, and there are moments, small little moments, like the Ellie and the Sam relationship, absolutely nailed, brilliantly done. But yeah, I just, and this is going to sound like, I don't know if him, like I say, him be the character being deaf, just if it meant like it's like they're trying to be too inclusive for inclusive's sake, you know?
Yes.
No, I honestly, I don't think it's anything to do with inclusivity. I think it is, just a really simple, instant way to make you go, oh, poor kid. You know what I mean? As opposed to what makes you more attached to this child than anyone else you've met, because everyone's having a shit time of things. There's loads of kids having a shit time of things. What makes you really give a shit while he's deaf? Oh,
I think the story does that by itself with the interactions that you have with Ellie and Sam. I don't think you need to fall back on the fact that he's deaf. Just the two of them, the bonding that they do in such a short period of time, and like, you know,
or it was strong enough by itself.
Yeah.
I think the reason that he was included is, one, definitely for the reason that Richie's saying, which is like, okay, we need an immediate remote emotion. Also, it's to play on the A Quiet Place vibe, a post-apocalyptic, like. But I think mainly what it's to do is to make you understand why Henry gives this much about a shit about his brother.
Yeah.
How this kid is completely more helpless than another kid. And like, so I think they're trying to draw a line so that you sympathise not so much with Sam. You are going to sympathise with Sam, but you also sympathise with Henry. because Henry is the person who feels, or at least he's meant to come across as if he's carrying this weight, just like Joel is carrying his weight. It's just, I think what they wanted is, because for whatever reason they've put in this whole thing about the rebellion, opposed to doing a very good character study of watching, like we said, In the Sewers, where it's separation and you get more of a horror vibe where they're dealing with the noises, the clicker noise, you know, a bit more. What I would have liked to have seen, if I'm going to be completely straight about it, I would have liked to see in the sewer scene where the whole 45 minutes is very much, you know, almost a two-shot of Ellie and Henry, Joel and Sam, and just having the interaction. Joel feeling more comfortable to talk to Sam about his worries about Ellie. Henry unloading a little bit on Ellie, so that I get a scene with Ellie and Joel away from each other, where instead of, because you don't get internal thoughts, do you? In TV, you don't really get internal thoughts, so you need a character that you can talk to about it. And I would have seen Sam, even if he was deaf, as a very easy person for Joel to feel confident enough to go, it doesn't matter what I say to this child, because none of it will be repeated.
Yeah.
And it'd be a way for us to get a temperature reading on Joel's mindset now, after he's gone through, you know, 3 episodes with a girl that he's now feeling like he's responsible for.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think the show is something we touched on last week, and it is very much a recurring theme, and it's definitely a theme for the second game, is that you're only a hero in your individual story. You're a villain to everybody else.
Yes.
You know, so when you were saying about
Kathleen,
him, you know, and you sort of you sympathised with her because, well, you know, she is kind of the hero in her story. She was absolutely true, because not only did Sam put, you know, his brother above her brother, but it was just like, you know, you've put a single person under an ideology that's fighting against tyranny. You know what I mean? So you can really sort of sympathise with that, and I love that sort of exploration.
To go with that, the one thing, like when the episode starts and you see, because it's Kansas, right? Kansas City is where this takes part. When you see what's fucking going on in Kansas City, when they're maiming, murdering, dragging bodies through the streets with fucking 50 knives all sticking out of them, you're like, holy shit! Like, this is some Mad Max stuff going on. These people are feral animals, and I'm just like, whoa! Like, and instantly it gives you the vibes of like, these are just some messed up people. But then there's
some shit.
There's that little interaction.
Added on, just to interrupt. Added on. This Kansas City is infected free. So this is humankind being humankind.
But what they do brilliantly to bring it back around, and this is the one interaction that I feel that Joel and Henry have that's brilliant, is when they're standing there overlooking the city when they're talking about their plan, and he turns around and said, you know, this, I can't remember how, they had a nickname for Kansas City, and it was like, he was saying like it was the worst of the worst. They'd get like the civilians by the Fedra, they get raped, they get murdered, you know, they get beaten all the time. And it was like Fedra were the bad guys. But the way the episode started was just like these like nutters, these feral humans have just decided, nah, sod this, we want to we want to rule, so we're just going to kill all these Fedra agents who are trying to protect us. But no, it was the other way around. They're actually like, they've rose up from oppression and took a stand, and over however many years, whatever, it's 20 years, I believe it, isn't it? They've finally like, enough is enough.
Overthrown them,
and they've overthrown, and then now they see themselves as being free, and they see Kathleen as their like leader. And like you say, when she goes in that prison cell and she's like, well, you're all rats. And it's like those people that are in there, the same as Henry and the same as Sam, less so much Sam, because Sam's just technically an innocent bystander in the sense of he's Henry's brother. But like, which I also think is a really good thing that happens later on with something she says. But the fact that she's just like, you know, no, you're all guilty. You're all pretty much gonna die. Like, you know, because at the end of the day, you are just as bad as them. Yeah, she is cold. But then, like I say, the thing that she says when Henry's like, I'll give myself up, just let the kids go, and she's like, no. Unfortunately, kids die, and you're just like,
yeah.
Whoa, okay. Okay.
You've
Yeah.
done some. You've been down some dark roads.
Yeah.
You have, my dear. Like
Yeah.
you've been in some bad places, man.
Yeah. But I think that was a really good, like what she did there. It would have been easy for them to just go, okay, yeah, Henry, if you, I promise I will let your children go and everything. And the fact is just like, nah. Death.
Yeah.
Death.
No.
No,
At the end of the
Henry,
day,
Henry,
you
we're past that.
Henry, you caused this.
Yeah.
So technically, Sam is on.
Consequences of your actions,
Well, yeah,
bitches,
Sam is
you know.
your responsibility. The fact that Sam's now going to die is your fault as well.
Yeah.
And that's the way she played it out. And I thought that
Well,
actually come across really,
Yes.
really well.
Throughout the entirety of the series, good and bad is literally just a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know, which
But
is
that's what it
which
was
is-
in Last of Us. That's what
yeah,
it was in Last of Us.
exactly, which is fascinating. Because for all the intents and purposes and how much everybody loves Joel, he's not a good person.
No.
He's a
Like, in
murderer.
terms
Well,
of-
he
yeah, he's
he
done
ultimately
horrible
says
things
that,
to
doesn't he? He
people.
he doesn't see himself as a good guy.
Yeah.
He sees himself as a nasty piece of work. And I think
But
that's a
due to him, in the perspective we're seeing him, he is the hero. So
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah,
naturally, it's the Nathan Drake syndrome. Except like that was the thing I loved more about Joel, because it's easy to compare him to say Nathan Drake because they're both made by Naughty Dog,
Yep.
and Nathan Drake's this charismatic, wisecracking guy who everybody loves, but like murders hundreds of people during the course of every Uncharted game, whereas like Joel hasn't got that sort of personality, so you haven't got that weird juxtaposition. He's a lot colder, so it's a lot more believable that actually he is a killer, and he has done some pretty fucking gnarly shit.
he will just
He's a
do
military
whatever
man.
it takes to survive. He's a survivalist first and
Yeah,
foremost, which I
Well,
suppose
he's-
you have to be in that situation.
Well, him and his brother are both military men. They're,
Yeah.
Like law-wise, they're both military men. So the coldness, the unequivalent in just action, is bred into them. I mean, we'll see probably more about that next week when we get into seeing his brother, which is what I imagine is going to come up next week.
It's got to be
Right.
Yeah.
So moving on from our opinions, we do usually talk on set design and so on and so forth. Set design was amazing.
Yeah.
Thought the bloater suit looked fucking incredible.
Yeah, it's good.
I was concerned about how they were going to do the bloater in terms of in the game, the bloater like pulls pustules off himself and launches them and launches spores everywhere, and you're kind of like they can't
really have
they
that,
can't have
can
that
they?
because they
Yeah.
haven't even had the spores, and
No,
also like so, but it's I liked it. But one thing we did say, right? Actually, I want to reverse back to last week's episode. We had this conversation about the floor, didn't they? They opened a door and the floor was moving, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and obviously, and I was like, oh, I think that's where we see the bloater scene come out. But that is kind of what happened, but not there.
Not
so
there,
that was the
yeah,
kind
it's
of
not
like
far away.
that kind of gives you the impression that the infected are everywhere underground,
Yes.
like
But then we
everywhere.
didn't see them.
We didn't see them in the
which
tunnels.
is just like, what the fuck?
Like
So
the school,
It seemed a misstep to not have
yeah,
not just one
yeah.
in the tunnel.
The
that they had
the
to deal with.
school was set wise fantastic.
Wow, yeah,
It's
wonderful.
exactly. It was like item for item, perfect. And yeah, like you say, I largely and the town as well. If you've played the game, the town when they come over that ridge, they drop down and the cars are littered in the street, and they first start getting sniped on. It's like, oh yeah, it's spot on. It's
Yeah, crack
absolutely
on.
spot on. So those couple of things they pulled in there with set design, amazing, brilliant, really well
In
done.
terms of production value, the show's off the
Yeah.
fucking chain.
Yeah.
Like, and when I say like it's a misstep, it was still
Oh yeah, it's still
a great episode of television.
Yeah.
I said last week that I thought last week's was probably the weakest so far, but I think that was purely and simply coming off the back of how strong 3 was.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was this one where I did have it's not so much bad, but I was like, it was the first one where at points I picked up my phone and had a check for something. You know what I mean?
I will say, I mentioned last week about like series having like peaks and troughs, and like when you have an emotional high, you kind of tend to find the next episode's kind of like a more stabilizer, and not a massive amount happens, which is what happened. And this episode, it started 120 mile an hour with the mass murders going on in the streets of Kansas City and everything, but then it kind of just smoothed itself out, but it ramped up massively at the end, which I think it needed to do. So I agree with, like, it felt a little bit Hollywood, maybe a little bit out of place, but I feel the episode also needed that to happen.
That's what I was saying.
Otherwise, it would have just been another episode, just like okay, it just plodded along. I think it needed the absolute horde to come out, and also we need to be reminded just how dangerous the infected are.
Yes.
Because
you can't have too many episodes.
We've had
them.
3 episodes. Well, effectively, up until that point, we'd had 2 3/4 episodes with no infected. There was no real infected during the Frank and Bill episode. There's like no real major infected to speak about in the last episode that we watched.
Not really.
So then this episode, you're like,
you got to throw the threat back. You got to go like, we need the threat back.
And what way to do it? We could do the museum thing again, like, a couple of clickers, okay?
Yeah.
But no, fuck this shit. We're going to put 200 of them in, and, like, look how they wipe out people with AK-47s and machine guns and, like, assault rifles, and they just plow through them like nobody's business. And you go, okay, yeah, shit's real. Like,
I will say that the bolter, the bloater has obviously become the tank. I mean, say what you want, man, about it not following the game, but I was pretty happy when he ripped that off.
I didn't. I don't think they were badly done. I was wondering how they would do it because they can't follow it exactly. I was hoping they weren't going to try and do something stupid like he can pull bits of himself off it because it would just look ridiculous.
Yes,
It fits the game, but it doesn't fit the series.
No,
but
exactly.
The only thing I would say is I kind of wish they zoomed the camera in a little bit more.
Yeah, I see.
With the old face rip.
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit.
A little bit of gore would have been nice. Yeah. A little bit of gore would have been nice. But I will say that the 9-year-old contortionist fucking played the clicker.
My god! Wow!
In the car.
Yeah.
Wow!
When it just flips over, it's just like
fuck off.
that entire scene was fucking terrifying.
Just fuck off.
Honestly, the way it came through the window, I was like, that is some of the best physical acting I've ever seen. That
9-year-old contortionist.
Wait, it climbs through the window, and then all of a sudden it's just like flips over the seats, and you're like, oh!
Wow.
Get out of the car, Ellie. Get out of the car, Ellie. Get out of the car.
Right, move. Like, I kind of do agree with you in a way in that I think something big needed to happen. I don't feel that a giant Hollywood fucking shootout was it. I would have maybe not more with Jay's earlier summation. I think I'd have much rather had a 20-minute slow burn fucking tense weave through, two pairs have been split up, like you say, you're flipping between the two of them, you're getting to see the pair of them sort of bonding, you're getting the weird terror, a double terror from both sides because you've got both people looking after the other person's kid effectively, and then that ends in a kind of a giant chase or something like that. I just feel that would have been more effective than
you can still do the sniper thing and you can still have the car plow through.
I think you could have. I think they missed a trick with the sewer, massive trick, possibly the biggest mistake they're going to make throughout this whole series. I think is not because like you say, I think you missed so much in terms of character development for Ellie and for Joel because they've been together this whole time. Now let's separate them. And it also would lead really, really well into what's going to happen to Joel a little bit later.
Yes, because now the question is, have they not split them up knowing that you've got to do a big, at least one whole episode where Joel and Ellie are very, very different ends?
I played through, I was saying to Rich earlier, I played through Left Behind again today, and I started 2 today, part 2. I am wondering whether or not we're going to see the whole entirety. I don't know how they're going to fit it in, but left them play out. Instead of, I think they're going to cut some of the walkie-talkie stuff out, the walking and talking. And I wonder if they're just going to make an episode which is Left Behind, where we're going, where she's like going off and she's trying to find medicine for Joel, and we've got like her backstory with Riley. I wonder if that's actually going to be an episode now. Like before, I was like. But then playing it again and remembering how it ties in and the flash back and forth from modern dating, I wonder if they're actually going to just do that as an episode.
We've only got 4 fucking
I know,
episodes
I
left
know.
and a lot of shit.
I
to get
wonder.
through,
I wonder.
so
I also
probably-
am now thinking with that. I don't think we're getting the hospital. I think they're going to turn up at the hospital, and that's where the season ends. That I'm putting that out there now.
I'll fucking buy it.
That's how I feel they're going to end the series. I just have something niggling in my brain that we don't have long enough, because that is a huge scene. That's an episode, easily, if not like a 120 episode. You know,
That has to be 120. We said this.
Yeah,
in one of the previous ones, it has to be 120.
I just don't know. I'm putting it out there.
I don't know whether you can end the series getting the hospital, knowing the million. I mean, we're in millions of people that have played the original game. You gotta have that.
But
the emotional moment.
But no. Think about it this way. It's a cliffhanger. Think about it this way. Neil Druckmann is the creative director of the game, and he's the head director or whatever on the thing. How better a way to sell more copies of the game?
I know what you're saying.
When the game comes out in March, literally just as this series is about to finish, than to end on that cliffhanger. So people are like, fuck, I haven't played this. Crap.
Yeah.
Let me rush out.
Legitimately, if you do that after you have stated on multiple occasions that the series will contain the entirety of the game, I won't watch anymore. I'll be done. Like, I'll fuck yourself. Because you're flat out lying through your teeth if you do that.
It's a shitty thing to do.
It's a shit. 100%. It's a shitty thing to do. But we know. But how much do they love cliffhangers and I'm just thinking about the stuff that I watch and bits and pieces. I've just started watching the new series of Criminal Minds, and it's like as they come to those penultimate episodes, every episode's like an end, and you're like, fuck.
But I don't like, and I know this is just opinion. I know it's just opinion, but what I'm loving about this show is they're not close colding me. I mean, they did it last week with showing me a young black child, but every episode has had its conclusion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It felt like it's closed doors.
And in its own sort of. Every episode's got its own sort of theme that it explores, and it has a start, a middle, and an end point.
Well, we know,
and I'm not a big fan of, as I say, I would much rather my television episode be like that.
I think we're going to get a cliffhanger episode, because what happens with Joel, the whole falling off the horse,
I think that's definitely
a cliffhanger. That's the end of an episode. That's a cliffhanger there.
I reckon that's the end.
I think more than likely, because I think he's going to go and meet his brother. They'll quickly pan through that, because they can get out a lot of that.
Starting a generator. I mean, like the general plot point is that they've got to go and start a generator. So
and then obviously asking his brother to take Ellie. But they can plough through that in the first 10 minutes, and then they're going to go to the hospital where they think they're at, don't they? And then obviously we know what happens with Joel and him falling off the horse. That's going to be
sus about what we say, because we are.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go too. And obviously, Joel, obviously, and then that will be a cliffhanger there, and then so what would that be? 6. So you got 7, 8, and 9. Maybe I just feel there's so much still to go.
Yes, there is.
And knowing TV and film, like it wouldn't surprise me. And I'm putting it out there now. I'm like 70-30 that I feel that's what's going to happen. That they're going to.
I was just say 100% announcing it now. If they do that, if it don't end where it should end.
Yep.
You know, as in the final scene of the game, which I really want to say, but I'm not obviously going to, because you're going to ruin the fucking thing. I'm out. I'm done, because you've made such a hoo-ha that it's the entirety of it.
So
and then just to flat out bullshit like words. Nah.
I'm just thinking we'll have to. I'll have to like reset it, so we'll have 2 cameras for the first 45 minutes of the show. Then you can jump in after we talk about The Last of Us.
No, I'll just be here going fucking wankers the whole way through.
Drummond's a knob.
I just little nipples.
I just feel that like. It's what they do. It's like they need the hook to bring people back, or they seem to feel that they need the hook to bring people back to season 2.
I will say, I don't think that they should feel that way about this because the medium already exists.
Or
Like, so if you're coming back, it's because you either loved that first season and you're wondering what else is going on with Ellie and Joel in this world. Again, no spoilers.
Sorry, go on.
Carry on.
No.
Right.
Sorry.
I think he will close the door, but I think he'll give something at the end. I think when what happens, I think there will be something to a certain character that they're going to allude to.
Okay. How about this then? How about this? This is my second thing.
Okay. His second
We
role,
get
let's
the
go.
end. We get the end, but it ends at the elevator with Marlene.
I don't know, man. That just
Again, a
seems...
riot.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like well, obviously we're not giving anything away there because people are like, "What's that?"
Worse. That's
like
worse.
just that scene there, that scene where like that's how it ends. Where you just like,
Look,
and then
you
what'll
can't-
happen? Camera fades. I can't without camera fades to black, and then you hear the and
Gunshots.
yeah, you hear the gunshot, and you don't know.
No. See, like, if it doesn't end with the exact final words of the game, then you've missed the point entirely of the story.
Quite possible. Quite.
Like,
But then.
Look, I want to talk about it, but we're gonna have to stop.
Yeah.
In a minute.
We'll have this conversation after the pod.
Right, so like, not to pull rank, but we've got it. We can't.
That's fine.
Sooner
That's
or
fine.
later, we're
That's
just
fine.
gonna go.
I just wanted to. I just wanted to put it out there that
They've
I
gotta say
can see it
these
happening.
words after this happens.
Yeah.
So,
No, I
think we
just-
should-
I'm sorry if you've never watched it. You're devastated. We were.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree.
Right now, I do want to just touch on before we move on to the next point. The last 5 minutes of the episode, I thought were, I'll be honest. At the end of the episode, I cared more about Henry's plight than I did Sam's situation. But watching a man do what he did and watch him break, I thought the actor did absolutely.
Yeah, I just
superb.
did a stunning job.
Absolutely nailed it. Because I mean, I hadn't remembered the game, and I was like, I can't remember. I know what happened. I know that Sam dies, but I'm like, I can't remember what happens to Henry. And then when it happened, I was like, oh shit, it shocked me again.
Yeah. I was.
Well, that's what I was saying about, like, I have literally just played the game, so I've gone through. I've seen all of this. I've just recently had all these emotions, Sarah and Sam and that, and it get me. And so I'm sitting there going, well, I know to a T what's going to happen here, and it still wrenches a hole. Like, so that's how well they've done. But one thing I will say, Henry, like, like, what a shot! I'm just putting it out there. What a shot! I mean, the geezer's got some sniper skills on there to just be like, oh damn! Because how many times have we seen? It's like one shot, head killed, while the child's wrestling with another child.
Fucking.
He didn't fucking jam the gun that time.
No.
I've never killed anyone, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yeah.
The defense.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, that was cold. That was just like, pop, you're done. One thing I did, another thing that I think was brilliant. This isn't in the game. Okay, so in the game, we don't know that Sam's been like Sam's in a room by himself. Ellie, Joel, and Henry in a room chatting. Ellie goes in to see Sam. He's very off with her. He's very cold. He's very abrupt. She then leaves the room, and then he pulls up his I can't remember if he pulls his sleeve or his trouser leg in the game, and there's a bite mark, and you're like, oh fuck. And then in the morning, they tell Ellie to go and wake Thingy up, if I remember rightly. She goes in, and that's when he starts getting it. He comes running out, attack, blah blah blah. They're shooting things. I really liked the fact and the innocence in Ellie believing that her blood could potentially do something, because we know that's doing fuck all. That's not how it works. But I truly,
for a moment I was going, they're not going to change the story here like this.
No. I kind of knew.
You do a riot.
I knew. I wasn't expecting that, but I loved the innocence of like, of her being like, oh, I've got magic blood, and like she's a 14-year-old, so I kind of feel like she's like in that kind of thing where she's like, well, maybe
Yeah,
this
it
might
could
actually
happen.
help,
I
and
do-
she wasn't just doing it to
No.
aid him, because she didn't have to do that, like.
No.
But the fact that that she cut herself open and tried to get her blood into his bloodstream, I was just like sitting there like, that's such an honest and heartwarming moment.
It's a pure thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's one of those moments in the show where it reminds you she's just 14.
She's a
She's a
kid,
child.
right? She's a kid, yeah.
Mm.
She's just 14, and he's younger, and you should
About
have more
10?
sympathy for
Is he
him.
about 10, I
But
think?
you are, he's about 10. But like, my heart just went like you say with Ellie. I'm like, oh man, she'll do anything to just keep him going a bit
Yeah.
longer.
So
And he just-
it legitimately say I knew it was coming, but like you said, I was just so, oh my god, you
Mm.
know, it was just so very wow, well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like, you
there were
felt all his
aspects of-
emotion. He said nothing, and you felt all his emotion.
Yeah.
Where he's
There
just
was-
like,
There were so many like really good moments like in the episode, but then as I say, I do feel that my overall opinion is I do feel that there was an almost equal amount of missteps that I kind of I'm hoping it's just a one off.
I think that I think the biggest misstep is obviously the tunnels. I think that's and I think, like I say, I think that might potentially be the biggest misstep they make. And forgetting the ending, whatever happens with the ending, we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Just as this episode goes and where we sit currently, that's the biggest misstep for character development, for story, for a lot of things. I get Rich's point with the like, why did you go all this way with this? But I kind of, like I say, I feel it was a strategic move with them, and I honestly didn't mind it. The strategic move to let's reinstate the fact that the infected are here and they're savage and they are not to be trifled with, and they're not like just some byproduct that we don't need to worry about. They are as much of a worry as anything else.
Yes.
And as was shown, okay, yeah, Hollywood, expensive explosions, all that malarkey, but I think, largely, I don't think you said on IMDb the highest rated episode yet, 9.6,
So
is that
far.
right? Yeah. I don't agree with that.
Nonsense.
No, because 3's like
But-
easily the highest rated
but-
episode.
But I would say it's right up there.
yeah,
Like, just because I
if I was
feel
gonna
there were
rank it,
enough
probably 8.
enough moments to pull it together, and the bits that I feel, like I say, the biggest misstep, but it wasn't. I can turn around and say, as an episode, it wasn't in there, so I'm not going to critique it because it wasn't in there. If it had been in there and they'd done it, like, what would have been worse is if it was done in 5 minutes. So at least we haven't got that. At least that's a saving grace. So they've got, oh, they're split up. Then 2 minutes later, oh, they're back. They've walked around the corner and they're back together
Or
again.
issue.
You're like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
That would have been
Trouble
worse.
Sewers run to 1 point.
So at least, like, that's a saving grace. Yes, it was missing, but
Agreed, but to those sort of arguments, my point is always like being stabbed in the arm is objectively better than being stabbed in the face. But if I had an option, I'd rather not be stabbed at all. If you get what I mean. So-
But unfortunately, it's been and gone now, so we can only
exactly,
we're always
such
looking
shit,
at past
such
tense, aren't we? Because it's already been made. So, I think I can look at it in the fact that I can accept that it not being in there because at least they didn't ruin it.
Yes. That's fair.
But it is a misstep that it's not in there.
Right, guys. So going from one misstep to dev missteps. So what I
Ooh.
did there? Smooth.
or not,
Or
as
not.
the case may be.
or not.
No, janky, faceless, missing
Yes, janky,
pixels.
faceless. Right, so guys, just to give everyone out there in the podcasting or video world, what we're going to talk about next is game development. Now, obviously, the thing with game development is we only ever see the final product. So what we're going to talk about this week is we're going to talk about what we receive as the consumer, what we pay our 60, 70, 50, 30, 35, 20, 25, 25 money for, DLC, games. We feel, as consumers these days, we're nickeled and dimed every single step of the way. Games have gone from my era and Rich's era of paying, your solid £50, and that game was the game. There was no getting around it. So things have progressed to the point where if you got a buggy game and there was a bug in the game, it's buggy forever. So they moved on to a point where you got updates. But now I feel that we're in a world, and you can talk to me both about this in a second, where devs are using updates as now a way to fix their game that is coming out broken. It's happening a lot, and let's get into it, guys. Obviously, big companies that have done this, mainly Ubisoft. TJ, you look like you're ready to say.
Just quickly, I wanted to say one thing I'm really happy about just then is that you said that games from my era and Rich's era, as if like I might be some young sprite that's younger than you when I'm the same age as you. So it's not my era. But I'll take the fact that you think I look 21.
We all know
it's
that
fine.
TJ was a jock all his life. Trying to play football, not playing video games. He's come into
I'm going.
PCs.
No, I'm going. You said era, as in like you know, you're old as fuck, and I'm like the young new hotness. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'll accept it, even though we're the same age.
Throw you a bone every now and then.
I mean, this grey isn't. I paint this in. This isn't real. I'm only 21.
Yes, so TJ would have. I don't know how much. I'd be honest,
the same
TJ,
age.
The reason. Yeah, it's not that your age that was questioning. I was like, I don't know what your history is.
Very much
a
gamer early doors, and then took quite a spell out.
So, well, the reason I mentioned Rich is because I know Rich.
I'm playing. I'm playing.
Yeah, I know you are, but I'm upset now, and you've thrown me.
I like to
the
throw
real
grenades.
question we're sort of asking is like, do game developers have a duty of care to the consumers with the product they're selling it? And you know, the logical question after that is, if they do, are they actually achieving it? And I don't think it's a spoiler for anyone to say that no, they haven't, and they haven't been for quite some time across a lot of the industry. Jay mentioned Ubisoft; they are a prime culprit, but they aren't by far and away the only one.
I would argue that everyone has these issues.
Yeah, and I would very much argue that the biggest change in the advent of, duty of care was the advent of accessible online for consoles, because that was the point where game developers have been literally since day one, since gaming went on to day one. It's what way can we monetize the fact that we can now connect our game to the internet and change and add stuff. You know, what way can we do that? And there's been many different ways of doing it, and you seem to see like trends that will build and build and build until there's a culprit that kind of breaks the barrier. So Star Wars Battlefront comes to mind. You know, Star Wars Battlefront was the be all and end all of games that were advertising. You can unlock everything in the game without spending any money, and technically you could, but you'd have to put in like 6,500 hours to be able to do it. Or, as to quote a good friend of ours, you could do it for the low price of some real money. You know, and Star Wars Battlefront sort of came out and broke the barrier, and I think that sort of aspect of the industry's got better. And then you've had the whole unfinished buggy game thing, and I feel like that hit a wall with sort of Cyberpunk.
Yes.
But then it sort of seems to have regressed back a little bit. Like the big thing at the moment is one of the biggest changes in the gaming industry is they found a way to monetize beta testing.
Yes.
So instead of games developers paying people to beta test the games and iron them out, they just launch them now for 70 quid, and we do it for them, and tell them and report them with all the bugs and stuff like that. It's a load of horseshit.
Going back to something you just said there, I think, and it ties into us really, 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 really well here. I think, like you talking about like updates and downloads and other things they bring in. And I know we were going to talk, weren't we, about, because this week has been actually quite pivotal, because you guys are known for a specific game you play, and I like on stream, and I'm known for a specific game I play. Yours is Apex, mine is Dead by Daylight.
We've both had seasons,
and we've both had mine's a public test build for a chapter that will be released in a couple of weeks. But it's been an interesting week for both. So do you want to speak first about Apex? Because obviously both of you, the Apex thing rolled out first. So do you want to speak?
What do you think of the new update so far, Joe?
I'm going to be honest. This update has actually been really, really beneficial. The game has been suffering long-standing issues with how its performance was, server usage, how people are match made, and I think I won't say it's perfect, but I will say that this patch has shown massive improvement in going in a right direction. They've also changed up the whole game and how you play. I'm not going to go on too much about that. Me and Rich touched on it last week in our other show. But it feels like, I mean, how long's Apex been out, Rich? Well, we're on
4 years.
season 16.
Yeah, this is the 4-year anniversary event. So it came out like February 4 years ago.
So you think this is a game that's been out for 4 years and it's solely funded more or less by loot boxes, and we'll get into loot boxes,
Battle passes and shit,
and battle pass. But for 4 years, I mean, don't get me wrong, the game is play. I'm not saying that the game is in a not playable state, but there were there's been issues to the point, especially in a shooter game. I should bear in mind, for those that don't know, Apex Legend is a battle royale first-person shooter with emphasis on team play and being able to scale buildings. And your main point is, if you play
character-based, squad-based, every character's got abilities and a role, and you build a character and you work towards killing everyone.
Yes, so that game, for 4 years has been this thing, and it's a shooter. So when I look down the barrel of a gun and start beaming someone, I expect those bullets to fucking hit. Now, there was times within the 4-year tenure of this game where I would beam someone and I'd be going down the mic to Rich going, he hasn't registered a single shot, I'm dead.
Yeah, your aim's just shit. You need to get better aim. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
No, there has been a lot of long-standing, and I think it's a testament to the core ideals of how good Apex actually are. That the community, such a big community, has stuck with it for so long. But it was very much getting into like a make or break sort of territory. Last season was really badly received. The favourite map in the game, the community's favourite map in the game, Olympus, came back for the second split and just fucked the game completely, and it got removed and it's still not been put back in. And it felt like this season was very much a do or die. And yeah, they've kind of done they've done enough to make it feel like really fresh and fun. We had a killer first night. Not only did it work, it felt like the best it's kind of pretty much ever felt.
You felt like you're in the right matchmaking as well. You didn't feel like you were just being completely one-bombed by teams.
Yeah, we felt like we were against people with the same sort of skill level for a fucking change. We won 4 games in the fucking
3
night.
games, yeah.
Crazy, man. The new weapon's good. It's ridiculously overpowered, but it was always going to be for the first 2 weeks. Yeah. Silly little changes. The new game mode's really fun. The character changes feel like more than 4 characters are meta game viable going forward. Now they all have their uses. You have to think more about how your team's composed. What sort of passive abilities do you want to bring? What do you want to leave behind? What more benefits your team? I think they've done a really, really good job. Which is sort of, from what I can gather, is quite a country experience to what you've sort of experienced.
What you've been going to, Jay. So I suppose our final point on it is that it feels after 4 years, we finally got some devs caring, dev care of like what we. I mean.
Yeah, they haven't just
because it's
more
a free
shit
game
for us to buy. Yeah, which is usually how it feels. Every season adds a new battle pass, a new cosmetic event, a new heirloom that you got to pay for, all this other stuff. This one actually feels like they've added the stuff that we've been asking for. Just sort your matchmaking out. Okay, here you go. Most requested mode in the game has been team deathmatch. Okay, here you go. Very impressively as well, Team Deathmatch, the community was loved the idea of it, but was very unhappy with the implementation. It was long. It was 3 rounds.
They changed ages.
There was no penalty for abandoning as well. So if a team was losing, they'd all just leave. And they changed that instantly on community feedback, and it's like, that's cool. That's a good sign for you moving forward. So yeah, we've genuinely had quite, and we've been sweating it again this week quite a bit, haven't we?
Good.
And so who is that? That's Respawn and
EA.
EA. Okay.
And Respawn.
Wow. EA listening to people. Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget, Respawn is made up of the old Call of Duty devs.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Okay. Basically, Infinity Ward, all mass exited Activision years ago. This was when it Rich years ago, before the Xbox One was released.
It was just after Modern Warfare 2.
They were
just after Modern Warfare 2 on like the
They
PS3
were always
and the
split though,
360
weren't they?
instead.
Activision and just on that. They were always so 1 year it would be Activision, 1 year it would be Infinity Ward would be the official like
Well,
the
no, because in
They're all owned
technically
by
Infinity
Activision.
Yeah,
Ward
yeah,
are
they're
an
all
Activision
But
studio.
what I mean is
So
it was like it would be this was it always seemed
it'd be
to
Infinity Ward, Ravencroft, and I think Sledgehammer are the three studios that work on Call of Duty at the moment, and it rotates between them.
Yeah.
The Infinity Ward ones, you know, it's still Infinity Ward in name, but all the talent fucked off, made Respawn and made Titanfall.
Right, okay.
And obviously
Criminally underrated game as well.
Apex is built basically on the edging of Titanfall. It's set in Titanfall's universe.
Yeah.
It is set like 100
Remember you
years
telling me that
after the
before.
events. So, right. So moving on from what sounds like good care, finally.
Yeah.
It's subjective because one, it's a free game, so I haven't paid for it. Two, 4 years is a long time for me to get a game in a good working position. But talking about one person in 4 years,
I'm about to shit all over your 4 years, mate.
TJ is going to devastate. Now, I've got some knowledge of DBD, which is what TJ is going to just dive into in a minute, because I have played it. One of our friends, one of Rich's mates, plays it all the time. So I have heard infinite amount of issues with behavior. Anyway, I'm going to pass you over to TJ. TJ, tell me.
I'll take your 4 years, and I'll see that DBD is coming up for this summer. Its 7-year anniversary. So, obviously, Dead by Daylight, for those who don't know, it's a 4v1 asymmetrical horror game. You either play as the killer hunting down 4 survivors, or you play as one of the 4 survivors. The idea to fix generators to power an exit gate to get out before the killer can kill you. They've recently had, so they run 4 times a year. They release a new chapter. New chapter normally consists of a killer, survivor, potentially a map. And 2-3 weeks before the release, they always bring out the PTB, the player test build, for PC players to be able to give their feedback and everything. Go in there, they can play as the killer, they can play as the survivors. And it's just a fact finding for them, and also if they change any of the perk updates, they change different bits and pieces, some of the visual improvements, they might change maps. They might do visual improvements on the maps and bits and pieces, because DBD is ever evolving in a sense of like the meta for the perks, especially in the most recent updates. They're trying to shake things up and change things around to stop the game being stale. They have been listening to the community quite a bit in that regard. But this chapter coming out, chapter 27, it's called Tools of Torment. And I just feel they haven't taken anything that the community have said over from the previous chapter. The problems and issues that people had, they've not listened, and they've just gone completely. So the the killer that's come out, the killer is called the Skull Merchant. It's a female killer who has like she has a weapon on her arm, which is very much in the same of like Predator's Gauntlet with the two knives. Which is pretty cool. And her power, she has these drones that have got skulls, and the skulls have got like a sensor in them. She can set it up, and it can set up a perimeter, and it can monitor the perimeter. When a survivor runs into that perimeter, she gets an alert on this little radar thing that you can pull up and look at, and you can see them as a dot in there. If they're in there for too long, they become exposed, which means they're a one hit down. And I feel like the game is just, they're getting away from their roots of just the chase, the down, the hook, or the survivor, getting away from the chase. And they're just trying to implement too much. They're trying to make it. They're going away from it being a horror game to it more being like an action game with like all these different hurdles that you've got to potentially get past or get through, and I don't know. They're taking the fundamentally fun thing about the game is the chase, as the killer chasing someone down, or as the survivor trying to escape. Like the rest of the stuff you do as a survivor, it's actually quite boring. You just sit on a generator. You've got to hit skill checks. You sit on the gate. As the killer, it is all about the chase. But putting in, I get they're trying to move the game forward in one sense with like putting in potential different play styles, but I just feel it's the last. The community is so hung up recently, and it's gotten so toxic over these two words, camping and tunneling, which essentially, if you put someone on the hook and you don't leave the hook as a killer, you just stand there, making it not impossible, but very difficult for the team to come in and rescue that person off of the hook. Or if once and that's camping. Tunneling is when the person's been unhooked and you just go straight after, because it's 2 hits to knock someone down. So once someone's been taken off the hook, you chase that person back down straight away and hit them again, because they're 1 hit, they're an easier down to get them back on hook. You could be hooked 3 times and then you're done. And that's a massive thing. And I just
why wouldn't you do that?
Why wouldn't you do that? It's a okay. So as a killer,
it's a game mechanic.
It's a legitimate strategy. Yeah, it's a legitimate strategy, but from a survivor point of view, it's annoying, and I understand it. I am not adverse to using that strategy. I use that strategy. You know, I want to kill people. You know, I don't really care if I don't get any kills, or you know, I don't really care. I play the game for a laugh. I don't take the game too seriously, but a lot of the community do.
Just pop in, Tej. Just pop in. Now, what I totally understand what you're saying, but what I think you failed to mention is how toxic that the survivors database the player base has become, like to the point where people camp and tunnel because of how toxic the survivors react.
I think there are, but I think I'll be completely honest. I think there are equal. No, there's not equal. There is a large proportion of a toxic community on the killer side as well. I don't think that can be ignored. But yeah, the most common thing that you will get is like Survivor Rulebook is a statement you'll hear quite a lot in the community, and bits and pieces, and the game Survivor sided, whether it is or it isn't, you know, and other bits and pieces. But not wanting to detract too much into just the overall thing of the game, getting back onto the devs. I feel that like they've at times they were very good at listening, moving things on, changing the meta, changing the perks. But now I just feel like with the last couple of killers, which have been the Knight and now this Skull Merchant, I don't know, they're bringing in play styles which promote the things that the player base don't like.
Right.
And it's just making for unfun games on both sides. Like, and I don't feel they understand that. Now, there is a tinfoil hat conspiracy going out there that they believe, which I don't believe. They believe this was supposed to be a Predator chapter and they lost the license before release, so they had to quickly change it up. Anyone who knows anything about licenses, I think that's complete tosh, because they would have had that sewn up. They've already said it takes 9 months to build a chapter from start to finish, which includes all the licensing agreements. They ain't going to spend that time to then have it the rug pulled from them at the last minute to release this chapter. But so, you know, whatever people want to think about that. But I do feel that, like I say, they failed to comprehend what the community as a whole want.
Yeah.
Now there are people out there that love this killer. But just in general, going by the play style that is needed with this killer, where this killer is going to be strong, if you actually want to succeed at a high level with this killer, it's going to promote what's known in the game as pushing for a 3-gen, which is where on a map there is 7 gens. You've got to power 5 of them. There are normally 3 that are located in a very close proximity to each other. Well, if you lock down those 3 gens, they can't. It's very, very difficult for the survivors to do anything. And it becomes very much a cat and mouse game with like chasing people off of gens. And then, you know, so you'll go to that gen to chase them off. That'll come into them. So you'll go. And it elongates games massively. And it just makes games boring. And like I say, with the last killer as well was the Knight, where you could put up sentry guards. And you could do that by a hook. So you could essentially camp a hook while not even being there. Which once again, it's kind of like when you've got this massive voice from such a big group in the fan base of killers and survivors. We don't want this. We don't like this. We would prefer it to go different. And then you just go loud and clear, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And that's just how it feels to me. Now, I will admit, I am not a 7-day-a-week Dead by Daylight player. It's the main game I play. I play it on all of my streams 3 times a week. I play both sides. And yeah, I just feel that there is it's become less of a care for them about, like with these chapters. I feel they're putting all their effort and energy into the bigger chapters, and these other smaller chapters, which should take as much precedent because there is only 4 a year. It's like, oh, we'll just quickly rush this out and we'll just carbon copy what we've done in the past. We like with a few new bells and whistles. But when people have complained about those things that have happened in the past, like take note, listen, and do better. You know?
I mean, I think just coming back to our care of practice, which is what our general discussion is, I think that it goes to the point where we're now in a position where everyone's got a voice. And I'm not saying you have to listen to every single voice, but if 95 people are screaming one thing, then as a dev, whether you do it is your choice as a dev. I'm not saying that you have to listen to everybody, because that's also madness. You can't listen to everybody. You can't implement absolutely everything into every game that everybody's screaming for. I don't understand in some games which seem obvious, such as, I don't know, like Cyberpunk, how you can be so rough compared to GTA 5, which is 13 years old at this point, or even longer. How some of the fundamentals when that game come out, you know, like water having just no density, like it seems like such a fucking misstep. So you understand that you got to listen to the community when they're giving you pointers on, like, look, this is just bad. But I don't understand how a game that's built on its community. Sorry, Rich, what's up?
No, I was just going to say, I think there's very distinct duties of care. So I think balancing an online game is a very distinct and different set of community, like duty of care, to releasing a fucking product that works. Because I think, unfortunately, and something I was going to say in terms of the DVD community, unfortunately, the loudest voices are always usually the minority and the biggest fucking whiners. So I find, yeah, you do have to listen to your community. But then I also think if your community is also talking, the loudest voices in your community are actually talking a load of shit and want the game to actually being more one-sided, then I kind of don't think you should listen to.
I don't. Yeah. See,
you know.
I'm not. Like,
I'm not 100%. Just before you,
yeah,
get into it,
go
I'm
on,
not.
yeah.
I don't know 100% in terms of Dead by Daylight, because, like, you know, all joking aside, I'm not a fan of the game. Like, I don't get on with it. You know, more power to people that play it. It's just it doesn't do anything for me. So I don't know if the game is like one-sided centric or another. I hear from some people it is. I hear from other people that it's not. I don't know. I've got no personal sort of experience.
We have got a very biased friend, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's my.
What side does it, what side does he fall on?
Right, so our friend, he plays killer. He likes to play killer. He like yourself. He likes to chase. He likes to jump scare people. It's what he plays the game for. It's what probably drew you to the game and drew the massive community of people to the game that there is. However, what he finds is exactly what I said to you about. He finds that the survivor thing, and I sort of agree with him, because in an asymmetric game, I think the fewer should be given the higher benefit. Right, if you've got 4 versus 1, I want that 1 to be so fucking terrifying that even with 4 people, I'm still scared to go near it.
Yeah, agreed.
DBD.
I understand that.
DBD.
But also, I can understand from a player base that it's 4v1, so you need the 4. If you make it unbearable for the 4, you don't have a game.
True.
Yeah, but that's why you have strength in numbers versus raw strength.
I mean, I played both sides. I enjoyed both sides. I play killer. I play survivor. I hate solo queue. Just to put that out there, it's the most painstaking. It's like pulling teeth. But I play both sides, and I don't play the game to a competitive standard of, like, I don't really care if I get out as a survivor. Great. If I don't, I'm not really fussed. I play the game to have a laugh. That's how I see the game. The game is just
that's what our friend does.
It's fun.
That's what our friend does. But my point being, just to finish my point.
No, sorry. Sorry.
The problem that he finds is, yes, 4v1. I understand that the many should be able to overpower your killer and feel like you had a good fight and escape, right? However, with DBD, I don't know what it's like now. It's been a long time. one person on a team can completely control the killer in the past. If you've got one good looper who can just run that kill around, the rest have done all the gens, and even if he dies, which he won't care about, the person who's looping, then I just feel that that game must have been the most boring thing in the world for not only the other survivors who are just going around, doing skill checks, but that killer's like, man, all I'm doing is chasing this dick, and I can't ignore him because every time I go near someone, he's flashlighting me, so he's drawing my attention. And you don't get me wrong, you can try and ignore him, but he's all yourself. That character will always be there.
I, in that situation, I 100% do the wrong thing, and I'm like, no, it's my personal mission. I don't.
Yes.
But then I see that, I take that as my victory. This is how I play the game. If I can then get that person, that's my victory. The other three. Out you go. See you later. Well done.
Yeah,
I'm just like, this is. It's not even the fact that person might be a dickhead. If that person's like very good, okay, that's the goal. That's my thing now. Is that I'm going up against someone who is probably better than me. So if I can get the upper hand, like I've won. And that's how I take that.
Personal growth.
But but I mean, it's.
For new killers,
the thing is,
don't forget the matchmaking was bad as well. So for new killers,
matchmaking wasn't. See, obviously they have skill-based matchmaking now.
Yeah.
But that's also like broken. It's like there isn't, because you've got.
I play Apex, man. I understand completely about broken matchmaking.
So it's like I don't know if it is better than. At least before I suppose you could turn around and say, "Oh no, I went against a rank 20 and I'm a rank 4." Like now you don't know. Now you don't know. But it's I don't know. I don't subscribe the way it's because of the way I play games. I don't subscribe to any of the. I don't really. I just play the game for fun. I don't care. But I get what you mean about the loudest voice and people bitch and moan and. I didn't think it was a particularly toxic game when I came in. I came from a FIFA background, and when I got people messaging me online telling me they want to burn my house down with my family in it, you're like, all right, that's a little bit harsh. And then I come into DBD.
Religion, TJ. Football's a religion.
But DBD Twitter.
I was a card sweat, man. I was a card sweat, and fighting games. I play fighting games like online, like pretty high in ranks as well. So I get a lot of toxicity. But I'm not gonna lie, it makes me want to put my dick in my hand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I find it hilariously funny, but there are people that understand, but I don't know. I just from my point of view of playing the game and wanting the game to be fun, like I say, wanting the game to be fun from both sides. But you've made the last two killers, it's not fun for either side really, because if the killer plays the killer how the killer is designed to be played, it's not fun for the survivor. But also from the killer, if he plays the killer how the killer is supposed to be played, it's actually a really boring game because the game mechanics that are there for that killer. So you have to play the killer not to full potential to get fun out of them and play a different style with them than what they've been designed to do, which I think is kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, I see that.
So that's my thing with it. Is just like, and people have come out and made these points to them. It's just like, the chase is the key factor in DBD, and you're making killers that are making the chases almost obsolete.
Yeah. I honestly think any long-standing online game should do what I can't remember what the first game to do it was, but should do what Apex has just done, where they've basically added fuck all new this season. This season is what I kind of classify as like a health season. It's like you're not adding anything new. You're taking a bit of time off, and you're just rebalancing everything.
They did actually do that. I will give them props. I will give behaviour props because they did do that. I can't remember how many months ago it was. They did like a complete reworking of like 50 perks. Of like 50 perks, and they literally looked at the most used perks, and they buffed perks that weren't getting used, and they nerfed perks that were getting used all the time, and it changed the metas, and that felt really, really nice. And actually, for a second, you sat back and went, "Hell, behaviour, you're listening. This is brilliant." And then they follow that up with killers that like and.
That's encouraging for Apex then.
Oh yeah, I'm fully.
Yeah, wait till your next killer, your next legend comes out.
Man, if it's Blisk, which is the rumored one, then it's going to break the game in two for the first 2 weeks. Man, it's going to be horrendous.
Is that the one with the auto pistol?
Yeah, and the wall running as a
Yeah,
passive. Fuck off,
that's
man.
not going to be a
Like,
good couple of. That's not going to be a good season.
yeah, that's gonna be like that's gonna make because like some of the Apex stuff seasons have been legitimately awful. So the first 2 weeks of Jay wasn't actually playing it when this happened. The first 2 weeks of Sia when Sia came out, like Sia has just been nerfed to the ground, but for the last like
Tell him what
several
Sears do.
seasons.
Tell him what Sears does.
Yeah, so Sia, right? He has his passive is every time he aims down sights, he gets a fucking heartbeat sensor that spikes and points in the direction of enemies. So he's basically got wall hacks all the time. Like in the first 2 weeks, those wall hacks went to like 150 meters. You could see, you knew where entire
Whoa.
teams were
Yeah.
for their time, right? His passive is ridiculous. So his passive fires like a cone in front of him, and anybody caught in that cone gets scanned. Like they had a full body scan that lasted something like 7 seconds, right? And it moved and showed you where they were, like
Yeah,
through
where they were
walls
going,
and
where the
everything.
steps are, what the
It,
health was, what
yeah,
the
it gave you
fucking
what the
shield
health, what
was.
the shield was. It also fucking stunned them, made the screen wobble, slowed them, knocks them out of any abilities they're currently using,
Fucking
knocks
hell.
them
Including
out of
healing.
any healing abilities they're currently using them, and knocks them out of resins.
Wow.
That was up until recently, right? Fucking at launch, not only did it do that, it did 10 damage as well.
Yeah.
So one shot wasn't a thing. If you got somebody one shot and they ran to behind a building and they tried to heal, you just kill them through the building. I once fired his ultimate, his passive into a building that I knew people were there because his passive was
Heartbeat
a heartbeat
sensor.
sensor. So I knew people were in this building, so I knew where they were. So just fired it through the wall and I knocked 3 people with his passive without ever actually seeing them. Like
That's
Me
it was
being very
mental.
excited about that day.
yeah,
also,
it was insane, man. And then his ultimate creates this big fucking dome that anybody moving in, it tracks and you get wall hacks and see where they are at all times.
how
So, like, yeah, for the first 2 weeks, like, he was the most busted piece
Oh,
of
okay.
shit ever. And then they kind of nerfed him back a bit, and they nerfed him. And I said to Jay as soon as they nerfed him, I was like, people are still going Bloodhound's way better. He's not. Sia's still really fucking strong.
Okay.
And it took a couple of seasons of like the competitive when people realised, holy shit, and then he's just dominated the meta game ever since.
And now
You
he's
know,
fallen off.
yeah, and then now they've just nerfed him to the ground.
So when did he get released? How long has that taken the progression to get him to? So he gets
18
released, and then 2 weeks later,
Yeah,
after
he got released sort of like 18 months, 2 years ago. You
Okay.
know,
About
got
2 years
released, absolutely broken. Then got nerfed, and everybody just slept.
but that first nerf
Like-
was like a couple of weeks, yeah. So they
Yeah,
kind of
exactly 2
they
weeks,
kind of
exactly 2 weeks.
fixed their issue quite quickly.
Yeah, normally,
Yeah.
normally within 2 weeks of the season launch, they will have a patch 2 weeks later because they will have 2 weeks of data.
So that's quite interesting. So you're kind of obviously where I have a PTB, which obviously releases and then they go through, make sure everything works all right. Kind of almost like an early access for the chapter. And then like the game, and then the chapter launches 2 weeks. Like with changes, and they'll tell you this is the list of changes we've made. Powers, so I'm ragging on this killer. This killer might be absolutely like nailed on by the time they get released, but as of now, so you kind of have that, but you have it in the you have it in the live scenario as opposed to yours gets it, and then you have that 2 week like we're just going to throw it out there to the masses, let them play test it. And then, and in 2 weeks, we'll give...
Yes and no, because they do have a PTB, but
they do.
It's not,
okay.
It's not an open PTB.
Right. Okay.
It's legitimately like ALGS and top streamers.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the data gained from the PTB.
I'm still waiting for my invite.
Yeah. It's
see,
very skewed more towards the top end of the
DBD is.
So when it launches, the rest of us plebs are just like, whoa, that needs to chill the fuck out, man. You know.
Yeah. See, whereas the PTB, anyone who's got the game on Steam, you can obviously download the PTB files. Obviously, if you're on Epic Store, or I don't think you can do it on Epic Store, or if obviously your console you can't. But so a large player base can actually access the PTB. It's not walled off to certain people.
Yeah, that's it. Which makes sense. Which makes sense.
Very mixed week then. So we've had a genuinely good, like healthy sort of update, and yours kind of not so much.
At the moment, yeah, it's I would say it's like
If it was a magic
lacking.
8-ball, it'd be like
Lacking.
signs are pointing green.
It's lacking, is what I'll say. It's lacking. It's lackluster. Actually, is probably a better word.
Right. Moving on from grim to other grim. We were talking earlier about Ubisoft. Now, because we're talking about duty of care from devs. Now, I'd just like to go back in the way back when machine, and we'll talk about, was it Assassin's Creed?
Oh man, like if
one?
you if it was Unity. Unity was
that's
the worst because like Ubisoft are a really frustrating one. Like in terms of duty of care, like across the fucking board. You know, earlier where I mentioned something about like all of the sort of sinister trains, like I can pinpoint examples like every single one Ubisoft is engaged in. So you know, they were one of the first people, I believe, to take out the ending of a game and then sell it you as DLC in Prince of Persia 2008, which is Jay will tell you is a game I actually adore. I love dearly to my heart. It's one of my top 10 games of all fucking time. But that was some shady bullshit, man. And then you know we were talking about like the Star Wars Battlefront and the aggressive monetization, the aggressive grind because they wanted to spend money to unlock stuff. For Honor launched in that state.
Yeah.
And then like Assassin's Creed Unity was really sort of the start of the downfall for them because again, you know, I've always been a very big fan of the Assassin's Creed games, despite the fact that they typify the open world map structure of game that bores the living fucking tits out of me these days. I love the history aspect of Assassin's Creed. I love the fact that it's woven into historical fact. I've always loved the fact that you know you can scan a building and bring them to Wikipedia history and learn things, you know, learn actual things from playing it. I think it's brilliant. And the state Assassin's Creed Unity released in, I mean, like character models wouldn't have like face textures. You know, it was unreal. You've never seen anything like it. And the first thing they fixed, like this was the point where they kind of made an enemy of me, to be honest with you. Out of all the things that were wrong with the game, the first patch, the only thing they fixed was the fact that the cosmetic microtransactions weren't working and people couldn't buy them. They didn't fix anything to do with the fact that the game was unplayable. The first thing they fixed was people's ability to spend more money on a product that wasn't actually fit for sale. You know, and then Assassin's Creed has got kind of like it's never released in that sort of state since, but it's kind of got more egregious as the series has gone on because now it basically locks half the game behind an aggressive sort of grind where you play through the story, you basically play through half of it, you get to like level 30, and then you got to get to like level like 60 to unlock the next lot of story missions, and you've just got to do the same quest 8 million times or pay like you know, a couple of extra quid for some levels, or pay like 15 quid for a double experience booster thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, as a company, they just seem to want to. There's no joy in the game development anymore. It's purely a monetization aspect thing, and it's just they've had a lot of backlash because you don't really hear a great deal of fuss about the games anymore. For not just for those reasons, for reasons that we'll actually talk about in terms of like development side and culture next week,
which we'll touch on next week.
I don't want to go into that because that's a whole fucking kettle of fish in a different conversation.
So are you saying? And sorry, did I hear that correctly? And you said about like paying for levels and bits and pieces and paying for stuff within the game, like in a not in a pay to win scenario, or is it a pay to win scenario?
No, it's basically
it's not pay to win because it's single player,
right?
But, but it is pay to progress.
Pay to progress.
You can do it,
but the grind is so hard.
Experience very, very fucking slowly, and you get very little for doing, you know, carbon copies of the same 10 assassination missions. Like, you know, they were cool the first time you've done one, you've done 200, they're not quite so fun anymore. You know, and they lock a load of like story and cool missions and stuff like that later. But then every single one of those games that has this huge disparity in levels between, and like I'm a gamer OCD dude, so it's not like I just run through the story. I do every fucking side quest before I get there, and there's still like 25, 30 levels between me finishing the story and the next lot of cool shit that I can do. And every single one of those games has a double XP thing you can buy in the store for something like 5 to 10 quid. Right. You know, it's just a really sinister. It's it's sort of to encourage you to spend the money. And the thing is, as well, once the door's been opened, you know, once you've spent, well, I've spent a fucking $5.
Pandora's box.
Another tenner, another $5 to make it a tenner. Well, then if I spend another tenner, well, I'm all the way there then, and I actually get it. It's a very sinister way of game design, and I think it's a way of, as I said earlier, you're treating your consumers as like cash points as opposed to like, valued. You're not building a community, are you? You're just like money, 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 money. Like the fact that they fixed the non-working microtransactions before the non-loading in facial textures of character models.
But that's an upper management decision, which we'll talk about more next.
Yeah.
So I will say
it's.
Carry on.
No, go on. I'll let you go first.
I'm just going to make just a couple of points. So one, just to give Ubisoft a little bit of credit. Due to the fire of Notre Dame, they did actually use the designs that they had in Assassin's Creed Unity to rebuild Notre Dame, which I think is a credit to their game design.
Yeah.
That's
like
how
I
they
say,
rebuilt.
when I said like it because of the history, because like the buildings and the layouts of the cities are
spot
perfect.
on. Yeah,
they are amazing. Like, and that's the thing again. I've always really liked about the series is you've got all this amazing, completely accurate sort of historical data with a sci-fi fucking story woven in. Because despite the fact that it's occurring in history, Assassin's Creed is a sci-fi story.
Yeah.
It's set in the future. So
Right. So the other thing. Sorry, I've lost my thread now. Right. So so they helped rebuild Notre Dame. Obviously, this isn't just going to be us talking about Assassin's Creed. Obviously, there are other games that I want to talk to. Mainly, one person I do want to talk about, which I'll get into in a minute, about, is Todd Howard.
man.
So, TJ, what was you going to say? Sorry.
Yeah,
TJ.
you can move past my point. You can move past my because I've gone.
Yeah. So just going on to, because as we were talking about duty of care. Now I remember, I'm sure Rich remembers when they announced. I think it was Fallout 76.
76, yeah.
Todd Howard stood on a stage and must have been 25 promises that when that game released, right, it was in a horrible state. So talking about care of practice. Now, don't be wrong. I know that before anyone jumps on my arse about the fact that, it's an old engine and blah, blah, blah. That ain't my problem.
Yeah.
That's a Bethesda problem, right? If you're not going to update your engine and you're going to get a janky game out of it, and then bitch and whine that everyone's moaning about your janky game that takes 2 years to fix and get into a playable state, it is playable now. I'm not shitting on Fallout. I like Fallout, but as a consumer, which is what we are, it does make me worry about StarCraft. It's not StarCraft, Starfield, because that's going to be probably built on a similar engine, which means I'm going to have to sit through 6 months of bad, buggy play. Now, I would like to think that in a post Cyberpunk 2077 world that they're taking more time to do this. However, Todd Howard is a slimy piece of shit, and I don't trust a word that comes out of that cunt's mouth.
That fucking absolute slimy fucking weasel cunt strutting out on stage.
Hold back, boys. Hold back.
In his brown leather jacket, telling the world how this is going to be the best thing ever, and it was just like no public apology. No, guy's a fucking weasel, man. But then saying that's not a new trend in gaming, because like a game series I've shit on for years that everybody fucking loves. Fables, I fucking hate Fables for the simple reason that Peter Molyneux could not keep his fucking mouth shut. Like by the third Fables, he'd managed to do everything that he promised he'd be able to do in the first one.
Yeah.
And the game would have been great on its own fucking merit if the guy
sorry.
Yeah, in much the same way though that No Man's Sky, like No Man's Sky wouldn't have had the absolute shitstorm of a reaction it had done if you hadn't have had everything in the fucking world promised to you before it released.
No, I'm a big space person.
I know
So
you are,
careful.
but there is no denying that fucking when that released, that was not the game that was promised.
The only thing that I will say in defense of No Man's Sky is simply that I felt sorry for the bloke who owns Hello Games, because he threw himself into a limelight. And in his first initial thing, he said, oh, yeah, there's loads of planets and you're going to be able to walk around and scan and, just enjoy a freedom of going around all these planets. Now, as it felt like, I don't know 100%, but as it went on and he kept doing more and more interviews, this game's going to change the world. I think he got put into a corner where people were going, well, what else? And he's already sort of give the brief of the game.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know what else to say. And then I expect on the fly, he's going, well, I suppose we could do this. And
just in that sort of respect, then don't tell anyone about the game.
I agree.
Drop the game, you know.
But you can't because Sony really did back him into such a fucking corner because it showed what looked incredible.
But that's for next week.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So fucking yeah, you touched in Cyberpunk, like I said earlier. I feel like Cyberpunk was very much a boiling point for the industry as a whole, because not just where there's like a proper double whammy with that game, because not just where like CD Projekt Red were the undisputed white knights of the game industry at this point, you know, fucking The Witcher 3.
Sorry, not Fable 3, Witcher 3.
Yeah, The Witcher 3 came out, was this huge open world game. And yeah, okay, it had issues and stuff, but it was remarkably fucking stable for a game of that fucking size. It had its side quests were better written than most games' main quests. You know, it was true. It had an amazing card game, Gwent. It was just the full package. It was amazing. It was up until sort of Breath of the Wild, I'd argue. It was probably the pinnacle of open world gaming. And then their duty of care afterwards was extraordinary, because everyone that bought the game then got 13 pieces of free DLC that dropped after the game, which added anything from cosmetics to new quests and new cards and a new faction in Gwent and all this other stuff. And then a bit later on, they released 2 pieces of DLC, one of which was okay, was all right. The second of which is absolutely fucking phenomenal, and I'd argue
the main game.
I would argue is one of the 2 single greatest pieces of DLC ever fucking released. 3 if you include Iceborne. The other one being Bloodborne: The Old Hunters, because that was mwah in terms of fucking DLC. So, you know, CD Projekt Red could do no fucking wrong. And then Cyberpunk came out. And not only did Cyberpunk came out as, you know, a fucking shit show for the vast majority of people, it came out at a time when the vast majority of people were spending more fucking time at home than they've ever spent in their lives, because it was 2020, it was the pandemic, and for a lot of people, you know, a lot of their entertainment has been cancelled left, fucking right and centre. People's holidays, people's lives have been cancelled. So, like, as stupid as this sounds, Cyberpunk was something I was legitimately, it was going to save the year, if you fucking will, you know, and maybe that's too big of an expectation put onto something, but I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation.
I don't think it was, because like, when you think about as well the money that they spent on the marketing for Cyberpunk was massive. Like, people who weren't even in the gaming industry, who like played games and stuff, knew what Cyberpunk was, because you had like Keanu Reeves doing adverts on telly for it and stuff, and you know, and like he's in the game.
A dirty synthwave soundtrack.
And like you just like the everything about it, the look, the feel, like everything. It was like, and the trailers that you saw of it, the gameplay that you saw of it, it was just like polarizing to the point. It was like, wow, this is like epic.
It's going to be the game.
Yeah,
like that's.
And they sold it as that.
Going to be
to then release it in probably in recent memory for me, the worst state ever. Like, when you've got people complaining that the game runs at 10 frames per second for the whole game. Like, people don't have faces. Like, when they did side-by-side comparison, I understand, obviously, you're rolling these things out on PC, on PlayStation, on Xbox, on multiple different things, and especially on PC, everyone's consoles are different specs. They're running different CPUs, different GPUs, all different. So you're catering for a massive margin. But to see, like, side by side, 4 different like pictures from 4 different like people's PCs of the exact same still, and it's just the color spectrum of everything is so far off. Like, and it's like, well, these people ain't going in there and editing like these are like well off, and you've got this person's got like one eyeball, this person's like missing an arm, and this person doesn't even have a face, and it's like, what? How? Like, this just it was just unbelievably bad.
Cyberpunk, honestly, I've said this to Jay, like kind of half joking, half seriousness. Cyberpunk was the thing. Like I've always identified myself as a gamer. As I said earlier, it's always been one of my core
Yep.
defining traits. I don't anymore, and I attribute a lot of that to Cyberpunk. Absolutely, there's been so much stuff that I've really looked forward to that's genuinely bitterly disappointed me, and Cyberpunk was the one sort of saving grace in my, because I worked in retail all the way through the pandemic, and like unless you worked in the sort of medical industry, like you don't have a worse time than I did. You know, it was horrible, it was awful, and fucking, as I say, this was the one thing that, yeah, it came out, and I was playing it on a PS5, so yeah, I didn't have quite as many issues as everybody else did. But despite the fact that the game was playable, it wasn't worth playing. If you get what I mean. And it's like I was acutely aware that I'm playing like just a working version of the PS4 game. I'm playing it on a PS5. When's the PS5 version coming? Who knows? Oh, okay, cool. You know what I mean? It's just, it was just everything about it was just absolute. And I just like CD Projekt Red again, like just company just fell to pieces, didn't it? Because then it had a huge fucking.
Well, like you say,
which is something we're going to next week.
You say about like duty of care and everything. You kind of feel like you can trust these developers because like CD Projekt Red of like you said, The Witcher 3, it was like astounding. It was like, wow, this is amazing. And then single-handedly, you can go from being the masters of an industry, in a sense, let's say, because The Witcher was, like you said, absolutely phenomenal, to then just being obsolete. Because you don't take... Now, obviously, we will discuss, yeah, like you said, next week, pressures from above and like where that comes into play. But still, you know when you're pressing that button to launch. Yeah, this is fucked. This, you know, this doesn't work.
Well, this comes to our point about the duty of care and how as consumers ourselves, when you shell over your 70, your 60, your 50, even your 5 and your 10, you expect a working game. Now, it's only within, I would say, in the last 20 years that you see more and more of this broken game, and some of them, I think we were discussing earlier, some of them don't even get fixed. And on this, let's start talking about a game that's yet to come out, that is under a massive amount of scrutiny because it's been promised and promised. It's shown, just to tie it into what we talk about, it's shown to look a lot like The Last of Us. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world. It looks a lot like The Division 2. But from what I hear, and this is a little bit devy, like they've got no care of practice, even though it's one of the most rated, most wanted games on Steam at the moment. Or is it the day before? The last day?
It's called The Day Before, yeah.
The day before.
It's... Oh, go on.
So TJ knows more about this than me. I'm just going to end my point before we let TJ go on.
This is really interesting, yeah, because this is the game that, like... I brought this to Jay and said this would be a really interesting topic to look at, and it was solely around this game because I had this game wish listed on Steam. You can't do that now; it's no longer on Steam. It's no longer it's disappeared. But yeah, the developers are fantastic, and that's the name of them, not my feelings towards them. Okay, I'm gonna say that is not my feelings towards them at all. But yeah,
this episode's gonna be called The Last of Fantastic.
They're they're a very small dev company, but they've got like this ideas of grandeur, trying to release this DayZ, Last of Us, open world survival game. And it just seems that every step of the way, there's even people questioning now whether it's actually a legitimate game or this is just a scam. Like to try for them to try and push other content, because they have released Prop Night, and there was also, so I watched a documentary about it actually, and from inception of launch, at every aspect for this game they have failed to deliver. Whether it be they were supposed to have a gameplay trailer being released on IGN through IGN's YouTube channel. Literally, we all know how do you play a trailer? You open media player and press play, right?
Yeah.
Pretty simple, right? They failed to do that. So the IGN webpage showed up. Here we go. Here's the title screen. The day before, countdown. Went past the countdown, started counting up. Got to 9 hours. Still hadn't played. It's like, and then they were like, yeah, we've had to delay it for a few weeks. Then nothing, silence. And it just seems like I say, every stage they were like, they've had soft release dates that they're putting, this is what's going to be, and then they're like, oh no, we're pushing it back, Then they get a like, right, okay, this is, bam, this is our release date. Listen to how stupid this sounds as a dev team. The game was supposed to be released 1st of March this year, after multiple delays and everything, and everyone's like, it's finally happening. It's finally happening. Then all
Everybody
of a sudden,
calm down.
Yeah.
then they turn around and they're like, 6 weeks before, I think it was, they were like, right, we are going to release 10 minutes of actual gameplay footage to wet the whistle before release. And everyone's like, finally,
Sweet.
it's
Well,
here.
Here we go.
It's in hand, cocks in hand. we're
Then
ready.
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we're not actually going to do that. And then all of a sudden, it disappears off Steam. The game is no longer findable on Steam. And you're like, hang on a minute, where the hell was this gone? It turns out that when they announced the game, they didn't copyright the name. They've let
Yes,
someone
I
else
forgot
come
about
in and get the
Yeah.
copyright for the name. And then 2 years later, 6 weeks before the release, they're like, yeah, we're in a copyright dispute at the moment. We can't release the game. When people have done a deep dive and found out that they tried to register the game the trademark over a year ago and were told that they couldn't have that, they couldn't have the trademark. And yet they've waited till this to try and sort it all out. And then they go from a March release, they're like, yeah, we've got a trademarking issue, we need to resolve this. We're going to push back release till November. And you're like, how long does it take to sort out a trademark issue over a name? Like,
Change
So
the
the game
fucking
that no one's seen anything of, God knows how long.
you say that. They did then turn around and go, hold your beer, hold my beer. We're going
Hold my
to
beer.
actually release this 10-minute trailer, which then did actually drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't look encouraged,
No.
TJ. You don't look
It was a walking simulator. Now I'll give it the world. The worlds look great. They're true to life cities in America, and they look amazing and everything. But they released about 18 months ago. They released a gameplay trailer of it, which
think I remember
18
seeing
months ago looked phenomenal. It had actual action. It had it went through the different aspects of the game. It showed you different inventory screens and bits and pieces. That was by far better quality than what they released was. Like from textures to graphics to movement, it was just so much better. This was almost like a downgrade. And when you consider that on the fact that one of the main reasons that it didn't come out last year was because they were like, oh, Unreal Engine 5's coming out. We're actually going to rework the game so it goes on to Unreal Engine 5. So we're going to move the release date to March of 2023 instead of, I think it was like October. We're like, yeah, we're going to take 6 months to move it across to Unreal Engine 5. And you're like, oh, okay. And then they release a trailer that is worse looking than what they had 18 months ago. And
Well,
literally, there's no gameplay. It's literally a walking simulator. You see a tiny little bit of combat. I think there might be 7 zombies, but they're all individual attacks.
Yeah,
so it's
not
not
a
like a horde.
Yeah.
And you just you look at it, and even the non-skeptical people have got to look at that and go, "This is bullshit."
Yeah.
So why would you ever
That
release it?
used to be a very common trend with the industry. In fact, that's not something new. So you used to have, again, I think the game that the straw that broke the camel's back was Killzone 2. When Killzone 2 was first announced for PS3, and they showed off a footage that they said was in game and was absolutely staggeringly beautiful. And then the game came out and it didn't even look fucking remotely like that. Or I think that bit was in the game, but it was like an FMV.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was a pre-recorded sort of
Yeah,
video.
yeah.
And
Well,
that's
it
why,
sounds-
there was a huge hoo-ha about it, and that's why fucking game trailers on TV now have to have
Along the bottom.
contain in-game
Yeah.
footage. If it doesn't have any in-game footage.
So, obviously, now this is a game. Now, Fantastic, sorry. Are they a big company? I mean, say they released Prop Night. Now, Prop Night's a 15 quid game.
So
It's a nothing game.
and Prop Night's a 4v1. It's a take on
Prop hunting it from Call of Duty.
yeah, it's a take on Prop Hunt. It's a 4v1 asymmetrical killer game, which I was massively looking forward to because it's right in my wheelhouse for DBD. but yeah, it's very cartoony in terms of graphics. It's a massive departure graphically from the day before. But another thing that come out with them, which was really, really interesting, is like unpaid, not interns, like volunteers. Like advertising for, like there was some real dodgy stuff about like them asking for volunteers, and then they had to come out and clarify that no, the volunteers don't actually work on coding and stuff, that they work on. But yeah, they're not a big company. They're not nowhere near in the realms of like Ubisoft or anything like that. Nowhere near. But the other thing that came out and why people think is a scam is about a year ago, I think it was, they released on the like this package on their website with like trailers and other bits and pieces, and it all had the tags in it for the day before and bits and pieces. And they were talking about, it's a life in the day of like Fanatic as well, and everything they went through, and like different bits and pieces. But they were all talking about this app that they had. I'm going to need to find the name of it because it's going to bug me. I had it earlier. And pretty much it was just after the like, I think it was like about an hour after they released this, and it went onto, I think it went onto YouTube. They had updated the links, and they put the link for the app in there, and they were trying to push people to go in and buy this app. And it was like a life app type thing.
A life game, or just a
no. I'm trying to find. I'll have to come back and find this, and I'll put it. Yeah. I'll make sure it goes like we'll put it in the description or whatever. But yeah, it was pretty much like a like a
lifestyle thing, steps and shit.
No. I can't.
Or like a life coach thing.
Hang on a sec. Let me.
He's struggling away. Right.
Yeah,
While TJ finds that, just because if we're going to talk about people thinking games are scams, obviously everyone knows I play this game, Star Citizen.
Of any particular
Star Citizen has been
interest.
called a scam because it's been going for 10 years.
But for us,
now,
it's different.
To my defense, there is a game, and I spend a lot of money on spaceships. Now, spaceships are physical things within the game. You can earn them in the game, however, they cost millions, which you can earn in the game. It's not that difficult, but obviously there'll be a loop at some point. So, my worry with Star Citizen is we're 10 years in, and they're currently talking about something called server meshing. Now, server meshing, for the layman that doesn't know, tried to bring down until I found out. Basically, they have a massive storage of servers where all the game is being played. And what server meshing does is, if me and Rich are both playing, and even though he's on a different server entirely, say he's in America, right? So he's on an American server, I'm on English, and Rich drops a gun at a certain coordinate on a planet, right? And then sends me the coordinates, so he's going to do server meshing physically goes, right, we'll take these two servers. Why will we go? So that when Jay goes over there to find that gun will be there. And the idea is so if there's 50 people doing a massive fight, then if you draw power from everywhere else, all these servers to get this to look great, which on paper sounds fantastic, but they've been talking about it for 2 years. Now, the point about the duty of care is this last Inside Star Citizen that they do weekly, they started going, oh, we've started work on server meshes, and everyone in the community went, started server meshing 2 years ago, and now we're dealing with a load of that. No, what we're suggesting is we're working on it together. So now, I know a bit like I waited a few years. I didn't back it out. But if I was something back in Kickstarter, I'm currently 11 years in, I've got no finished game. I haven't got the single player game, which is what I originally actually paid for. Now they're saying it's going to be 2 years to get this server meshing right. You got to start adding up and going like, what am I getting then? Because at
There's
the
no
moment, Karen,
there's no incentive to finish it while people are ploughing thousands and thousands and millions of pounds into it.
well,
It's in
there's
go
an
on.
ongoing thing now where people are just going, you're just selling ships. Like you haven't released all the ships that you put in a Kickstarter. Some of the biggest ships you're saying you're holding back for Squadron 42. Where is it? You know, we're 2 years past the point where you said we were going to get a beta. It's not here. So even I am like going, are they just selling fucking ships? Because they make record profits every year.
Yeah, it's the thing I always say when people bitch about, you know, your yearly games, so you know, your FIFA and your stuff like that, where the vast majority of the times, don't get me wrong, some years you do have massive fucking upgrades where you have like engine changes and shit.
Very
But you
rare
know,
though.
yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
very
the
rare.
times they could just genuinely just be a fucking 20 quid update instead of a brand new £70 game.
Yeah.
You know, but my argument to that is always like, well, you know, it tells at the end
Yeah.
of the day. And
Tell
the
gangbusters as
sort
well.
of yeah, and the theory, the thing I always say to people is right, you've got two choices, right? One is you can go to work, do manual labour for fucking 10, 11 hours a day, bust your absolute balls, and you make £100 a day, right? Or your second choice is you go to work for an hour a day in an office where you sit there with your feet up and watch cat videos and get paid £500 to do it. Which one would you do? You're going to do the second one, aren't you? Because you're getting the maximum return for the minimum investment. Like, if I can get away with fucking doing fuck all and people's going to throw money at me, then I'm going to do it. That's what the game companies are doing. Like, a lot of the duty of care comes to the fact that consumers have willingly bought themselves into this situation. So, say if there's a protest over I'm gonna pick Starfield here, like I'm not picking it just simply because I know it's a game you love, Jay, and I don't just want to
Mate,
grab it for the
there's
sake of
definitely
it.
going to be a protest about Starfield.
Yeah, but fucking Bethesda games for the most part do release in a fucking disgusting
Yeah,
state.
100%.
Like universally across the board, like even Skyrim when it releases on new systems still has the same fucking problems Skyrim's always had.
I mean,
You know
the
what I
bugs,
mean?
just to interject,
Um,
but the bugs for Bethesda have become a meme themselves. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
a meme
There's
within
web
themselves now.
pages. There's
Yeah,
web pages dedicated just to the bugs in fucking Bethesda games. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? If nobody bought Starfield for the first 6 months, right? If not a single person, just because you know they didn't want to risk it, if the entire world just went, no, we're not buying this until we know everything's all right, and the game releases in a shit state, and it takes 6 months, and then everybody goes and buys it, you can guarantee Bethesda will never release a fucking unfinished game ever again. You guarantee it because it affects the bottom line, you know.
Mm.
But while it's not affecting the bottom line, you know, because all that happens is fucking everybody runs out, spends a shit ton of fucking money, buys the game. It's a piece of shit. They get really, really annoyed with it. It gets fixed. Everyone comes running back because gamers are fickle people and they
Yeah.
have no morals because I want to
Yep.
play this. And then fucking new people come because there's a big community of all the old people playing it again, so it sells even more. You know, like Cyberpunk, for instance. You know, I mean, fair play, they sent Cyberpunk around. It went massive again because the show was fucking awesome on Netflix, and it sort of drew people to it.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, it took you 2 years to release a fucking game.
It's because
You
the
know, two
FOMO's
years
real,
to
isn't it?
fix your game.
It's
Yeah.
because the
Oh,
FOMO's real. People get
100%.
anxiety
100%.
that
Mm.
they're not going to play this game at release. I'm not going to see it. And we live in a world where, mate, I've already seen the end boss for Hogwarts. Already seen it. Didn't mean to. Just scrolling on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's already there, mate. Game's not even been out a month.
Yeah. But
Barely a week.
it's not that, as I say, gamers are super fucking fickle, man, because like something we'll go on to next week in terms of you know, serious moral issues with some stuff some companies have done. And then, you know, there's no public apology. There's just, well, look at this sequel to a thing you love and everything's forgotten. Yeah, everything's forgotten. Like we mentioned about Pokemon, there was this huge fucking. That's actually something I really want to fucking talk about. If I've got a moment, and
Yeah,
you'll let
yeah,
me.
go for it, go for it.
Go for it, mate. Have you found your app, by the way? Just to
Yeah,
have you
yeah.
found
Sorry,
your app?
just
Yeah.
to interject with that quickly. Yeah. So it's I've just got to take it off the bloody screen. What a donut.
What are you doing, TJ? What are you doing to
It's
us?
called Continent, and it's life, work, and communications app. So pretty much, it's a communication thing for business and for like Teams, like almost like a Microsoft Teams
Yeah,
type thing,
yeah,
with
yeah,
like
yeah.
like a subscription service to it as well, like monthly subscription thing, and that's what
Fucking hell.
they were pushing on a game when they were trying to sell a game to the masses. They're trying to sell an app that like for communication.
Well, what they've done is they've thrown up an app quickly to help them try and fund the fucking game.
Probably.
Because in terms of that game, before fucking I'm moving on, blah blah blah, and Nintendo have really pissed me off recently. Fucking
Check out the
it
Geek Show.
sounds like yeah,
I heard.
it sounds like the fucking there might be like one weasel at that company, and there's probably a lot of people there that genuinely think they bought into an idea of making this fucking awesome game, and or maybe even like the geezer at the top isn't a fucking con artist and a scam, but he's genuinely bitten off way more than he can fucking chew, and it's now got incredibly fucking real, and you're having to just show something which again wouldn't be the first time. It's what Cyberpunk did,
Also, what No Man's Sky did.
Yeah. There's lots of games that they had to release at this fucking point, and they still shouldn't have done.
One thing, just before you get onto the Pokemon, one thing I just wanted to say about there's this is where I have a real difficulty with Fantastic, because there is another game coming out. It comes out on Thursday. The 23rd of February, and it's called Sons of the Forest. It's a sequel to a game that came out a few years back called The Forest. It's a survival horror game. It's not open world. You're on an island, so there are restrictions. But they recently they had to postpone it. It was supposed to be released last year. They had to postpone it. There's been loads of things that have been posted and stuff, and people like complaining that it's been delayed. Now, they were complete transparency. They came out with an email about 4 weeks ago and said, "Look, we have got." And to be fair, I've played the first one. I was actually playing it yesterday.
Great game.
They have they're trying to implement so much more stuff, like within the game. They really want to make the game like just like have so much more interaction and everything. But they've come out and they've been like, look, fully transparent. The game is not where we want it to be. There are issues within the game. There is stuff that we are struggling to meet our deadline with. But we don't want to disappoint you. So we are going to release the game, but we are releasing it in early access, and it will be at a discounted price.
Yeah.
So that you can work with us and we can work with you. Get feedback as the game, and we can then obviously now it may be a financial thing as well for them. They need the money from the early access to get it released. But at least from my point of view, and if we're talking duty of care, they haven't just gone blank screen like Stonewall. We're not going to tell you anything. We're just going to go, yes, postpone 6 months. Or they've not just gone, fuck it. Let's see if we can slip this one out the door and get 60 quid for it. And and release it in a broken state. At least they've been upfront and honest about what they're gonna do.
Or you could counter that with, oh look, we've got an opportunity for a mass market, cheap, non-unionized alpha and beta testers, while still gaining an income stream.
Just to put a point on that, because I was going to make a similar point. I think that what we're realizing is that we've been now so conditioned that we're thankful to Sons of the Forest to giving us early access to a game, in opposed to a world years ago, you'd have been like, well, just release it when it's finished. Like, I'm not that desperate to play.
Or in a world where we get Wild Hearts released.
Yeah, Soccer,
which was
Wild Arts, that's another
yesterday
one.
at £60. But I know I don't know if you played that yet, and you may want to speak about that. But I know Rich wants to talk about Pokemon, so maybe
Yeah,
we
so
come back to
give
Wild
us your
Hearts.
Pokemon rent, mate. And
Well, yeah, I was
on to
just
Wild
gonna
Arts.
say, in terms of what Knights of the video game industry, Nintendo have always been championed for, very wholesome entertainment and selling great and complete products.
Yeah.
And I find that's very much not the case with the Switch. It was something I was discussing with somebody today, and I hate to sort of rag on it, but like, the more I've been playing it a lot more recently, and the more I play it, the more it really sort of annoys me, because I don't think it's particularly great for either of the purposes it's designed for. But that notwithstanding, so Pokemon, the first Pokemon game on the Switch, Pokemon Sword and Shield, there was a huge fucking hoo-ha and public outcry over it, because it was. I have to explain this a little, because people get confused a little bit when I say this. Like, it was one of the first games where you couldn't get all the Pokemon. Now, you've never been able to catch all of the Pokemon in any one individual game, but there has always been the code for all of the Pokemon in that game. So you can transfer Pokemon to the game. You know what I mean? So, there might only be 450 catchable Pokemon out of 1,000 in this game. But the code for all the Pokemon in this game, so you have them, bring them along.
Here comes a brand new world. Stepping in a place you've never been. Here comes a brand new world. Let's find a new way you never imagined. Across the sea, beyond the sky, you can do whatever you want. Everything you
like fucking 10-20 quid a year, but it's still a subscription service that you need to pay for. And then fundamental parts of the Pokemon game are battling and trading, and who does anything locally these days? Do you know what I mean? It's all done online. Well, to be able to do that in Pokemon Online, you need to pay for the Switch's online system. So at this point, you've had to buy a game, a more expensive version of the game, 2 pieces of DLC, and 2 separate online subscriptions to get a worse running version of everything you've previously had before. And this is just like in one generational leap. I mean, there's other shit like with the Switch. Like, the Switch doesn't have a network port. Like, why doesn't a console made, like every console since the PlayStation 2 has had a network port? So Smash Brothers to me is completely unfucking playable, because I have to use Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi for high-level fighting games is trash. It's make or break. If you've got more ping than the opponent, you've lost. That's the end of the story. I can buy a Wi-Fi adapter, but I shouldn't fucking have to. Do you know what I mean?
And then it still runs off a USB anyway, doesn't it? So you still got your issues there.
It's not it's not a fucking dedicated one. And then again, because I really felt like I was bashing Nintendo. Like Monster Hunter Rise, I'm glad it's on other systems. And my mate was like, Monster Hunter should still be on Nintendo. And I'm like, oh, no, because the way online works on the Switch is bullshit.
Yeah.
So you have to download an app for your phone and talk to people like that, like it's Discord. So because of that, you can't hear your game and talk to your friends at the same time because you can only have, well, I suppose you can have two sets of headphones in, but that's horribly uncomfortable. And why should you have to do that? And
You lose left and right anyway, so what's the point?
yeah. And the annoying thing is, like, actually on the Switch, you can actually voice chat just using the system. You can do it on the free to play games. So you can do it on Warframe, you can do it on Apex, you can do it on Fortnite. But one of the Monster Hunter devs said there was actually they wanted to use the system voice chat, but Nintendo insisted that anything that's sort of released as an actual fucking game, you know, a pay for game, has to adhere to their voice app things. And it's just like, guys, like, you've done a lot here to absolutely shut out my sort of goodwill in you in a very short space of time. Because, like, I go on about Pokemon. Pokemon's a big fucking deal to me. Jay, I'll tell you, I used to travel the country going to, like, Pokemon tournaments. I've got, Pokemon from, like, Red and Blue 25 years ago. Do you know what I mean? I've got, for maybe 5 Pokemon generations, my game time has maxed out at 1,000 hours, and I've put 5 times that into every single game for like 5 generations straight. Pokemon's a huge deal for me, and they kind of killed it in one sort of fell swoop, to the point where I played like the new one. The new one's cool. The new ones are kind of better step in the right direction. Writing, storyline, that's magnificent, but again, it runs like absolute ass. Unless I play it in handheld mode, but like I thought the point of the Switch was I had the option to play in either way. Well,
And you
why?
think the power boost would actually give you a graphical boost? Because
Yeah, but it doesn't. It runs to the point where like at points it is unplayable. You know, like, oh, this fixes, you have to close it down and reboot and do this. Well, I don't want to.
No,
You know what I mean? I just want to
you
play.
you shouldn't have to.
I just want to play my game.
you
Like,
pay
Point
for
of a
something to
console
work.
is that it works.
Well, yeah, you've paid. You don't want to have to jump through hoops. You pay the money to not have to jump through hoops.
You want to jump through hopes, buy an expensive PC and watch it crash on your 14.
Yeah, exactly. And just play space games that aren't real.
Yeah, between the 1-2 between
Like this is against me
Pokemon
today. What's going on here?
yeah, between Pokemon and Cyberpunk, the 1-2, it sort of like shattered my sort of faith in the video game industry as a whole, because like Pokemon was something I always relied on and always really looked forward to every fucking year. And I'm like, well, you've kind of ruined that now, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo have always nickled and dimed you a little bit though. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, always in a way.
in a hardware way more than. I mean, to be
Yeah.
fair, like the Switch was, for me anyway, the main advent of them starting to do DLC, because Zelda never used to have DLC. Now it's got DLC.
Yeah.
Mario never used to have DLC. I don't know if the new ones actually had any DLC. It might have done.
I don't think it has actually.
no.
I just know.
No, yeah. Hang on, didn't they release that you could buy the like previous tracks?
No, you're on about Mario Kart, mate.
Oh, right, okay.
Mario
Oh,
Odyssey.
sorry.
The
Yeah,
Mario
sorry.
game. I mean, again, but it's a very good point. Mario Kart, you know, they never used to nickel and dime you to have all the old tracks, but I think they're just trying to stop themselves releasing basically the same game again with a load of new tracks, which makes sense in respect.
Well, that's cool, because how about you just release, you know exactly what I'm going to say here.
Yeah, F-Zero.
F-Zero. My man knows.
But what Nintendo used to nickel and dime you on is you'd buy the console, and then they'd bring out, because they'd always bring out the console in
a
like
smaller,
one color or
sexier
two
version,
color,
or
right?
in a ball of colour, or you know, a Zelda themed fucking 3DS.
Like you buy a 3DS, and then they go, "Yeah, there's a new 3DS," and it's literally called new 3DS.
3DS, yeah. New 3DS XL. Yeah, hell yeah.
And then
for children. What are we doing here?
Well, it feels like they've caught up with the rest of the industry in terms of the fact that I can take stuff out of a game and sell it to you because you're all mugs. And you know, like I think I said before, sorry DJ, before I let you know, I leave Pokemon alone. You know, this was the game that obviously, with these issues that were brought to light just before the game came out, there was a huge outcry in the Pokemon community, because despite the fact that I don't play it competitively anymore, I'm still quite active in a lot of the online communities. And there's this huge outcry, and there's this giant fucking cry to, you know, valiantly boycott the game, to vote with our wallets and show Nintendo fucking everyone's really unhappy, and it's literally the second highest selling game in the franchise.
So
you know,
Go show
he's
gamers.
just like fickle.
Sorry, TJ, you were going to
No,
say.
I was just going to go on to but you can't bash Nintendo. Like, how good were they? They released the 3D, the DS, sorry, that didn't fold. Like, you know, for the
2DS.
people that you know that couldn't, that, you know, were struggling for money. We got the cheaper version over here. Don't you worry.
Yeah,
Do
but that
3D
was
that you
all
could turn
that
off.
was.
Oh,
All that was though was a way of trying to fucking squeeze an extra bit of
Yeah.
cash out of a dying system
Yeah.
because the Switch was out. You know, because that's what they always do. Like they did it with the Game Boy Advance. They
Yeah.
released the Game Boy Micro at the same time as they released the DS. Because the DS wasn't a replacement for the Game Boy Advance. We were going to continue to support the system. You know, we're going to support both of them concurrently. The exact same bullshit they said when they released the Switch. Oh, we're going to carry on, we're going to carry on. And then a month later, when everyone's run out and bought and pre-ordered Switches, it's just like Pokemon. Oh, actually, it's moved. And when Pokemon moves, because, you know, Pokemon is the biggest thing Nintendo has, because it's one of the biggest multimedia franchises. It's bigger than fucking Star Wars. Do you know, in terms of revenue generated by a very substantial margin, you like 3-4 times the revenue every year. Do you know what I mean? Pokemon's enormous. When that moves to a system, like that system's dead.
Yeah.
You know,
It's dead anyway. They'd stop making games for it, mate. They'd stop making like one. They would go into stop producing it, and second, like all first-party games had stopped. Just nope.
Yeah,
We're making anything else for the 3DS? We've got anything in the pipeline? No, forget it then.
You just have Just Dance, don't you? For a couple of years.
My thing with Nintendo, like that, it's just like all the goddamn peripherals. Like it.
They do like.
Oh my god! Like how much junk plastic can you have in your house?
It's like they like. Again, they were just like we said in our fucking podcast the other thing. Like with Jay and that group of friends, we were all very fighting game based. It was all very Tekken. My lot of friends from my hometown, like Halzoin, we were all diehard Nintendo heads. So we were Pokemon, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, and I really do feel like it's just unfortunate to see like the sort of last bastion of like wholesomeness and creativity in the industry adhere to these sort of toxic Western practices. Because funnily enough, in terms of duty of care, you didn't have this problem when like the center of gaming was Japan, because when the center of gaming was the East, because I'd argue that was the case up until maybe the end of the PlayStation 2. It was really the PlayStation sort of 3 era when Western game development, the fantasy, the open world game and the shooter really sort of took off again. But for, up until that point, video games were a very, very Japanese dominated industry. And a game might have come out and it might have been shit. It might have been a terrible game, but it fucking worked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's sort of as the games have sort of become bigger, more Hollywood-like, and sort of considerably more westernized. I think you've almost seen this very Western capitalist approach to it, where like
we're all chasing the pound, mate.
All that matters is the money generated. The end result is sort of, as long as you can appease the people at some point after you've had the fucking money from them, like the end result, the start of the end result, so the launch of the end result almost is irrelevant these days, because as I stated, we'll all show we'll put up with it. We'll all run out and we'll buy something that's fucking
because
broken.
the FOMO is real. We become so anxious that we haven't got it, that somebody else has got it, we're not going to get to play it, that you'll run out and go, oh, it's a bit buggy, but I got a 4090, I got 64 gig, I got a PlayStation 5, I've got Xbox X. I'm sure that on that high end console it will be okay. And I will lie. Fuck, I've done it. I've gone out, I've run out, I've bought a game. It's been dog shit. And I know it's been dog shit. But when people ask me, I lie. I lie through my fucking teeth. And I go, it's all right. I mean, there's some really good points. And they go, well, what about this? And go, yeah, I haven't seen any of that. And I have. And I'm doing it because I don't want to deal with the fact that I've spent £60, £70, £50 on a turkey. And it is a turkey.
Yeah.
And I'll play it for about 4 hours, lie through my teeth, and then just dissolves into the Steam library.
That's, I think, something that like as an industry, particularly as consumers, it's just like we need to start taking accountability for funding that sort of bullshit.
Yep.
You know, all the toxic game practices only become commonplace because we just keep fucking throwing money at them. Like once people stop doing that, like it goes away. The problem is, how do you get people to stop doing that? Well,
The
I don't
truth
have
is,
the
mate,
answer to that.
we're
Oh,
many years away from horse armor, aren't we?
yeah.
And it's too late now. It's too late. We said yes. We said yes to horse armor. We argued a bit, and then we went, it's only horse
Yeah.
armor. And then it's only DLC, and then it's only a patch, and then it's only this, and then it's
Yeah.
only that, and then
But
it's only a
then
loot box. And before you know it,
But then it is interesting to see. So a company I wanted to bring up earlier in terms of duty of care is it is interesting to see how a company's approach to duty of care can change because a company that always comes to mind is Capcom because Capcom were very much an early pioneer for shady business practices. So
yes,
Resident Evil 5 had a versus mode that was already on the fucking disc when you bought it. It was installed when you bought it, but you had to pay for it was a piece of DLC that just was an unlock key. You know, it was a couple of kilobytes that just unlocked.
Street Fighter springs to mind, Rich.
Yeah,
Street
Well, you
Fighter.
have Street Fighter X Tekken was the first game that launched with it had something like half a dozen day one DLC characters that again were all on the disc. It was on the disc that you bought and fucking paid for, but you had to pay £6 as an unlock code for each character. Then you had Street Fighter 5, which had, I shit you not, in loading screens there were adverts. There were actual adverts for products for
Wow.
like you know like Nike and stuff.
I'm
like
actually
this.
surprised that's not a more
Yeah,
utilised
it,
tool.
it's worse than that. It's
People
actually they
kicked the
actually
fuck off
changed.
TJ. That's
Oh,
what.
okay.
Yeah, they actually changed. So, say like this week's fucking advertiser was Nike. Ryusuke would have Nike on it in the game. They'd
Just
change
sad.
whatever outfit you wanted and then just put these
Just
outfits
sad.
on it. Like you had these really, really horrendous business practices. And then conversely, you have like Monster Hunter World, which I think I might have spoke about before, which
A little
had
bit,
yeah.
You love that game.
Yeah, but in terms of like for free looking after you after I've bought this game, like because you bear in mind that wasn't a short game anyway, you know, bought the game before there was any DLC for it. I'd already put like 800 hours into it, you know. And then every month for the next 12 months you got a free update. And the free update would either be like a new monster, which let you craft new armor, new weapons, new such and such, or there'd be like gear from crossovers, and there weren't small things either. There was like the Dragoon from Final Fantasy, there was Dante from Devil May Cry, Altair from fucking Assassin's Creed, there was Ryu and Sakura from fucking Street Fighter. There was, I shit you not, a fully fucking voice acted quest by from The Witcher where Geralt of Rivia came into the fucking Monster Hunter world and you got to play as him while fighting a fucking Leshen from The Witcher. And then once you beat them, you could craft Geralt as a skin and stuff like this. It was extraordinary. Wow. They added a new game mode, which was like a 16-player raid. They added all this crazy stuff for fucking free for a year. Then they released an expansion called Iceborne, which added just as much content as the main game did for, I think it was 30 quid. Fucking steal, man. And then they did exactly the same in terms of post-launch content for the next 18 months. So for the next 18 months, you had the same deal. You had new monsters, new weapons, new ways of playing, new, 16-player raids and all this sort of stuff. And that is now, you can fucking Google it and look it up. That is Capcom's single highest selling thing they have ever fucking made in existence. And this is a company that has made both Street Fighter and Resident Evil, and Monster Hunter absolutely destroyed all of them in terms of fucking units sold, and it's made a shit ton in terms of cosmetics as well, because like I usually stay well the fuck away from cosmetics in games. I've put 3,500 hours into a game I've spent a grand total of £70 for. I don't mind.
I thought you were about to say 3.5 grand I've spent in this game.
Yeah.
I'm
like 3,500 hours for 70 quid. Do you know what I mean? I'm quite happy then to spend a couple of quid on something cool for my house in there, or a cool outfit, because I've more than got my fucking
You've got your money's worth.
You've looked after me as well. You know, you didn't have to give me, because all of those things that you gave me for free, I'd have paid you a £5 for. You know,
I will say, like, Monster Hunter has got a renowned history. The game itself, it's been out since PlayStation 2, so and they have always done sort of eventy things where they will give extra monsters and put extra things in. So I'm glad that what they did was actually continue the
But I
tradition.
say in this day and age, in that such a big budget game, it's fucking unheard of in the industry. It's just like it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It genuinely doesn't.
In war,
crazy.
like there are some games that do it. It's not alone. Like Warframe has done more DLC than I think almost any game for
yeah.
So like it does happen. I know what you're saying. You're going, but this is a big boy. This is Capcom. It's a big boy.
Yeah.
Big boys don't need to do this.
Yeah.
They know
And
you're going to buy that
again,
product.
this is a company that like. If a company's got a history of doing stuff like that, cool. But this is a company that, as I say, like those first few things, they've done some horrendous fucking shit, and they've nickled and dimed you everywhere they can. So it's just really cool to see that, you know, not only did they sort of change their business sort of ethos on a wide scale, but then they've rewarded for it as well. Because then they go, holy shit, actually fucking, you know, having a positive duty of care to our consumers is actually worth fucking doing, because this has sold more copies than Street Fighter 2 and Resident Evil, like Resident Evil 1 have combined. And those are two of the most influential fucking games in video game history.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So I mean, like, I don't know where we're at this point, but is there anything more anyone wants to add? As it's getting to pretty late, we've been on for quite a while.
Yeah, I think the general consensus is like game developers need to do better, but I also want to add to that us as consumers also need to do better as well. Yeah. So we just need to stop supporting companies with shitty business practices, which is something we'll talk about next week, and shitty development practices. If they routinely letting you down, don't buy the game. Wait until the game's fixed. But because the only way you have of voicing an opinion, forget Twitter, forget whatever, it doesn't matter. You can have 100 million people scream about something on Twitter, but then if 200 million people run out and spend £60 on it, those 100 million people on Twitter are totally fucking irrelevant, because those 200 million people that when they spend actual money, you know what I mean? They're what people are going to fucking listen to. So vote with your wallets, you know, people. If you're not happy about something, don't play it, don't watch it.
Stand firm in your decision and decide like that. No, let the FOMO wash over you. TJ, have you got any more points to make?
Yeah, I was just trying to look up something, just because I felt it was really good to end with this with what Rich just said there. I was trying to see if I could just quickly find the number, because you were saying about supporting, like we need to as consumers to stop, like you know,
supporting bad practice.
Yeah, sorry. But I'm just trying to find, because we brought it up like a few minutes ago. Wild Hearts, right? Got released. Got released on the 16th. So technically, by the time we're filming this, it's 3 days ago for us now. So 3 days ago, it has 3,149 reviews, mostly negative. It's had on Steam, that is. It has had people, even with the like what Jay was saying about, like, oh, I have a 4090, it'll run on my computer. People with high spec computers have still been like, we're getting 13 frames. I'm getting 20 frames tops. You know, the game is just not running optimally, and it seems to be a PC issue. There seems to be very little from the console thing. I was just trying to find actually how much they actually sold, and I just saw a thing of 22 million down. That seems way too high. Hang on.
No way.
1 day ago, inside Wild Hearts Trouble launch, the game showed a good start, surpassing 13 million in revenue. That seems really high, actually.
All right. Well, roughly. All right. Let's just argue. What is it? £70 game?
That's the thing. It's a £70 game, AAA.
So what did you say? 22 million, was it?
13 million copies.
No, you said 13
million in revenue, 22 million downloads. But I just know this is from Games World Observer.
22 million downloads seems crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's 185. 185.
I'm just trying to confirm on this here.
With the remainder copies of the game sold. That's a lot of copies sold for a game that's come. I mean, to be fair, IGN have come out with 8 out of 10 for it. So I don't know if it was just reviewed on a PS5 or Xbox
See, I
Series X
can't
or something.
find where. Oh, please don't tell me they've conflated two things here. No, they haven't. No.
We're uninformed, don't worry.
Yeah,
You're
this
not
is
meant to be right.
exactly it.
saying, yeah.
Uninformed. Well, literally, I just typed it in, and the first thing that come up on Google has given me that price inside Wild Hearts Trouble launch, and these prices. But then you click on the article, and those prices aren't in the fucking launch. But yeah, I mean, it comes from, once again, like, I've never played Dynasty Warriors, but it's I know it's a big franchise. And obviously, the
That's
company
huge.
that made
It's a
Wild
massive
Hearts are
franchise.
obviously Amiga Force.
Yes.
And EA Originals to make this game. And yeah, I can. Yeah, these numbers now aren't showing up considering what it what I just read out to you there. So take that with a grain of salt, people.
To be fair to them, the 22 million downloads would depend because obviously you've got EA Play, which is on Xbox.
Yeah.
EA Play in itself, which is a subscription service. and if you
People
play
getting
EA Play
people
Pro,
getting 10 hours free, aren't they?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's been downloaded a lot. It's a free demo.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
that's
So that
quite
might
plausible
actually
then.
that
So
might actually be
13
it.
million in revenue sounds quite. You say like 100,000 copies. That's fuck all, really.
All in the
terms
grand
of, like,
scheme of things.
Is that what
Yeah.
100? Is that what 13 million in revenue? By the way, this was one day after release.
So
the article was one day.
185,714 copies would be 13 million.
That's
Yeah,
one.
That
not a
depends whether
lot.
it's pounds, yen, etc. Because yen is nothing. It's basically
Yeah.
sold 3 copies.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
It's dollars. It's dollars, by the way.
It's dollars. Okay, so
It's dollars.
yeah,
Yeah, because I was just trying to. I was trying to
So,
work
yeah,
out what they
that's-
come in and say, like, you know, we know this game is poor, but it's still like we still got the people
That's-
going out buying it and.
In all
it's
fairness,
selling,
that's probably why they've mentioned the dollars as opposed to the amount, because you say that in dollars and it sounds quite impressive. If you come out and say it sold 185,000 copies, people go,
it's not many. But
right.
I mean, to be fair, for a new game with no pre-existing history to pull from, it's not bad numbers. It's not great numbers either, but it's not bad numbers. You know, it's a new IP. New IPs don't sell always as strongly as older IPs. If people are buying it, they're definitely buying it because they're coming off the Monster Hunter craze. That's 100% what's driving any sales for that game. I did see some of the graphical problems. Now, when I say graphical problems, there was literal squares of color.
Yes,
Like-
I saw that. I saw. So they had like a
squares of
Japanese pagoda type thing in the background, and then
Yeah.
just all these bright squares,
Yeah,
like all over, and you're just like, what's that supposed to be when they're at home?
Insane.
But
But yeah, I mean, like again, but now they did come out immediately and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to work on it." But like, but how long is it going to take them to work on that? Why?
and
Wouldn't the better answer be
yeah.
like, let's
It's
not
just
release
hollow
it on the
fucking
PC?
words at this point. It's just hollow fucking words. Oh yeah, sorry, we didn't know the game was broken, despite the fact that it's so broken. Like, dead people could tell it was broken.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's just no way somebody fucking signed off on that. Like,
Well, it makes me
somebody
wonder.
Gave that little of a shit about the consumer. They signed off on that.
It makes me wonder: is there just no game testers then in industry anymore at all?
Well, yeah,
Because there's got to be a game
there-
tester.
Yeah, it does.
Someone has to test this game. They have to.
he's right. It's us. Yeah, it's
What
coming.
you'll have is you'll have small teams now that you won't have like it used to be, where you used to have like 200-300 people. Now you won't have that. You'll probably have like a small part of the dev team that like play test to make sure stuff passes the bare fucking minimum. And then these days they'll just launch it because why do they need to pay for game testers when we'll do it for them?
Just insane because I mean, in an era of where most people download their games, especially on PC, which is almost the only way to do it on PC, then why didn't you just go like, look, all right, we've had a look. I know we said it was going to release on this day. It is going to come out for consoles, so we've got that running perfectly. We're just going to have to delay the Steam one just a couple of weeks, just until we get it ironed out, because we don't want to give you a bad product. But that doesn't happen now. Now, as we've rightly said, and what the whole discussion has been about, is that we've come to a point where we'll accept any old crap with the promise that it will be
It'll
fixed
get
later.
better. Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's once
And
again
it
going
does-
back. Sorry.
It does a lot of the time. It does, Cyberpunk and stuff is, No Man's Sky we spoke about. That's fucking
2 years
amazing.
later,
You know?
Rich.
Yeah,
2
yeah, but
years later.
that's the point. They had your money 2 years before they actually delivered what they promised.
But
Yeah,
that's
it's
why I
bullshit.
liked what, like I said, going back to like the Sons of the Forest. I liked that. Yeah, we may have been conditioned to be like, oh, like this is a good thing they're doing this when realistically it's but it is a good thing if you compare it to Wild Hearts, if you compare it to Cyberpunk, if you compare it to just they could have just gone fuck it, let's release it.
Yeah,
We'll deal with it. We'll deal with it later.
My earlier point
About the knife in the head,
stabbed in the arm and the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like
But if you've got to have one or the other, okay, let's just say you have to have one or the other. You're gonna what would you?
Just because like I totally get that. If I've got to have one or the other, but just because something is a better option than something else doesn't make
it's
that
not
a good
nothing.
option.
It's not. It's not. It's not perfect. It's not what you would want, but at least.
Well, it's not even the bare fucking minimum. That's the problem. It's not even the bare fucking minimum because, like, there isn't another fucking. You imagine, right? You go to a fucking film, you go to the cinema, and halfway through, the film just shits out, and they're like, oh, yeah, come back in a month to finish it. Riot. You'd set the cinema on fucking fire, wouldn't you? You imagine you get a book. You start reading. You get George
the back of the book's empty, blank pages.
George R. Martin gets to drops the latest.
Now the real choice is write the rest of the story yourself.
Yeah, it just has dot, and then 20 blank pages. You're just like,
George R. Martin finally drops after 15 fucking years the next Game of Thrones book, man.
Yeah.
And it's literally like it's a full size book. It's exactly the length it should fucking be, but only half the pages have got writing. The rest of it's like I haven't done this yet. I'll fucking email them to you.
I'll get it through.
You know what I mean? You wouldn't take it. You just wouldn't take it in any other fucking medium, man. But like, as I say, we've just the problem is with games. Like they've every fucking foot they take then turns into like a mile. You know what I mean? And let's, as Jay correctly says, we've been conditioned to sort of accept it. And I do think that it's not having to go with it. I do think that is sort of the problem. It's just like even when they're still doing something shitty, but it's not as shitty as it could be. We're like, oh, I see, that's kind of coolism, and it's like, no, that's bollocks. Like fucking just flat out. Because again, like to me, early access is like. Fucking, you're paying granted a reduced price for the game, but you're paying to beta test the game for me.
Yeah,
is however you want to call it, that's what you're doing. You know.
Sorry, TJ, carry on, mate.
No, I was just gonna say, I get completely where you're coming from about like we've been conditioned to accept bullshit pretty much. Like it's just like bury your head in the sand and just accept it because it's just the way the world works, and we are the voiceless. We're the consumer. We're the voiceless. It would seem when that shouldn't be the case. We are. We should be.
The only voice I listen to.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, if we didn't drop them, I think you mentioned it in Bethesda. You said if we didn't pay, Bethesda would never release another shit game. They would make sure.
They would know.
Well, not even a shit game, because the game
or
is,
a faulty game. Sorry. A game with an issue. That's what I meant when I said shit. I meant I meant like unfinished or like.
I just want it because I don't want anyone.
Yeah. We're not necessarily saying Bethesda are crap.
No, I'm not saying that.
But no, we're just saying But yeah, no, I totally agree. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because as much as like we can all say, we're going to take a stand for this, there's always we might. The minority might. The masses won't, because the masses will just see the shiny glitz and glamour of the advert, of the gameplay trailer, of the poster, and they're like, oh, and we're like, what are the things that fly towards lights? You got the lights.
Moths.
Yeah. Well, like moths, we're like, oh, and then we headbutt the light just constantly, just like headbutting the light, like dong, dong, dong.
Shiny, jangle.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is with that is, yes, we are like that, but we are the minority, because there's a lot of people that we forget that buy video games purely on impulse. They walk past GameStop, whatever your local game retailer is, and they go, fuck, man, that new Bethesda game's out. I remember playing Skyrim. Did you play it at launch? No. I bought it later. I ain't big into games, but I do like that. And they'll buy it, and it won't make a difference that we didn't buy it. TJ, you'll buy the next DLC. I'll buy some skins for fucking Apex.
Well, yeah,
For,
this is it.
for
It's
content
like,
creation reasons, in respect.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all well and good giving it up here and giving it the hoo-ha, but like, you know, I've played a semi-broken Apex for the last fucking 2 years, pretty much exclusively, you know, so...
I've just shat on the newest DBD DLC. You can guarantee when that drops, the day it drops, I'm buying it. Now, it's only a couple of quid, it's not a few games, but that's still not the point. But also, but then with regard to that, it's just my... I have a different thing with that, actually, saying that. The same as what, you know, it benefits me to do it because I stream it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit different, and it's not exactly broken. It's just personal preference that I don't like it, and the community at large doesn't like it. But like, if you know, but you are right. I mean, I'm buying Sons of the Forest on Thursday.
Yes, I'll be buying Sons of the Forest.
You know, there you go. Like, you know, I'm and I'm generally pleased that it's not being pushed back and that it's coming in early access, and it's but because it's coming, like, because I now know what to expect in a sense as well. I'm going to be more accepting for bugs, whereas if I buy it at full price and it is buggy as hell, I'm going to be like, damn, you know, this is my
my only real issue with it being early access. It means that I'm not getting a complete game, which means that I can't complete it. So that is a concern for me, because I bought Baldur's Gate some 3-4 years ago when it was first released, and it's still not out now. And that game works. It's got problems, but it works. It's a great game, but I can't finish it. I cannot finish it. Even if I was to plow 300 hours into it over the next 3 weeks, I will not finish that game because it is not finished. And that is what concerns me. Only that concerns me about Sons of the Forest and all these early access games. Same problem I have with Star Citizen. It's early access, but I can't do anything more than what I can do in that one system until they add more systems. So I'm beholden to them. Not only that, they've already got my money. They've already got my cash. So they could just go, nah, fuck it. Done. I ain't gonna finish the game. Fuck them.
I've just got the Steam page up here for Sons of the Forest, just to tell you how the full game planned to differ from the early access version, what they've actually wrote. It says, in addition to bug fixes and improvements on balance and core gameplay, we plan to add items, more things you can 3D print. I mean, I didn't know you could get a 3D printer to work in the forest, but wicked. More to build and discover.
Amazing things with rocks and sticks.
More to build and discover.
From the A-team on the island, really.
And as well as adding additional game mechanics and lore.
Yeah.
So, depending on what they mean by core gameplay, is whether or not the game is, like you say, is finished. I'll give that.
I only say it because unlike other survival games,
I'm not gonna lie.
But unlike other survival games, the Forest, the original, actually had a story. That
it has got a story. Yeah, I'm playing through it at the moment.
Yeah. So that's my worry, because survival games, yes, you can release them in early access because people are just building things and then they're getting knocked down.
I think that's the beauty of this, though, because you have got the, like, with all the other caves and other bits and pieces and stuff, like, you can go off and just survive in the forest and do your survival building, you know. And I think, like, there's enough changes from the first to this, especially like you've got an AI like geezer that's going to help you called Kelvin that looks wicked.
Yes, that does look really cool. You write notes through him.
Yeah, pretty much we're getting Sam in the forest. But yeah, you know, it's. I think we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll be talking about it next week anyway. Talking about it next week. I think we closed our points here, guys. Are we ready?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think the general synopsis across the board is there's still, while there might be improvements from some companies, like universally, there's a lot more care and attention that companies need to pay to the product.
We are thankfully in a post. We are thankfully in a post Cyberpunk 2077 world, which means it does appear that devs and their overlords are saying, like, right, we've got to be careful about releasing games in a
To a
shitty
point.
state.
People just won't have it anymore.
But look, I don't think it will stop bad practice. I think you're still going to get
No.
badly released games. I mean, Wild Hearts currently, DVD, as you said, is a preference. But so I think it's still going to happen. But I do like that. I do feel that there has been some progression, as in the fact that people are going like, look, no one wants another Cyberpunk 2077, where it's a massive game, completely wanted and loved by everyone, comes out in a terrible state, and then everyone fucking mass leaves basically. And now, because again, the other thing that happened that we didn't talk about really, and we'll talk about more next week, because we're going to talk about, just to give everyone a heads up, we're going to be talking about the dev side of game development next week, because here at this show we like to look at least both points, because we're informed about it across the board anyway, but we do like to at least give you both sides. You can make your own opinions. We do. So, it's why it's opinions of the uninformed. So the one thing that I will say that we didn't touch on about Cyberpunk was they lost a lot of investment simply because that game came out in such a bad state, which does mean that someone is voting with their wallet. It's
Well,
the investors.
It was sort of the first game where there was a genuine, serious financial repercussion.
Yeah.
And then there was, as I say, there was a lot of legal dramas and stuff, which is something
and
that
a lot.
we'll touch on.
Well, a lot of that is also down to the power of social media, how that's moved along,
Yeah.
and how you can at the click of a button you can shit on a game and and put it on YouTube, put it on TikTok, put it on Twitter, But one thing I did just want to say was there are things like we say about devs and duty of care and everything. There are also the ones that need to be pointed out and say, and you have to give them a round of applause and say well done.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, 100%.
Elden Ring,
Yes.
stuff like
From
that.
software. But
Yeah, from
as we'll touch next week, with that praise does come pain.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that more next
But
week.
so we're not there are some companies that follow best practice, and there are we said The Witcher was amazing. Okay, so if you can erase Cyberpunk from your memory, you can say CD Projekt Red have done amazing things in the past. So it's not all, but it's the just take that extra little bit of time. Just take, just to make sure we don't expect perfection. We understand there's going to be
Devil's in the details.
Yeah, we don't expect there to be like everything to be absolutely at the pinnacle.
No.
But you at least expect something to be playable.
I need it to be functional.
Yeah.
I need it to be functional.
Yeah.
That's what I'm paying
for
$60
purpose.
For.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a game, I should be able to fucking play it.
Yeah.
If not,
Correct.
you shouldn't have sold it to me.
Yeah.
Like,
We
I'll
can
be
all
honest.
understand minor
Get
little
passionate,
things. Yeah.
But
But when
you
it
shouldn't have sold
fundamentally doesn't work in any respect to the way it should, whether that be graphically, whether that just be the game actually running, it just fucking crashes or whatever, or just swaths of the game missing.
Yes.
We just want things that work. We just want to be able to experience
want
and
to
enjoy
support
what
you.
we've paid for.
bare
we
minimum.
want to support you.
Yeah.
So
Bare
give us
minimum
what
you
yeah,
expect something fucking. The bare minimum you expect is I buy a USB stick on Amazon. I don't expect it to not work for 6 months. I expect it to work out fucking gate. So games shouldn't be an exception to the rule.
No.
That's it. You buy a camera from a moody seller, you expect it to show up, but it don't.
Yeah, we won't go into that.
That's a story for another day.
That's another story for
that's
another
a story
day.
for another day. And it just
So guys, thank you for our opinions, uninformed as they are. I have, of course, been Firefly Zero. You can find me on Twitch. I am otherwise known as Jay. I've been joined today by, of course, Rich.
LiveConvoy on Instagram.
And TJ.
Yeah, the proper TJ on all platforms: Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and the proper TJ on Twitch, stream on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
I also do the geek show with this nutter here. So
He does. He does do the geek show with me on Sundays. Yeah, he's on the wrong screen, but he sees it differently.
Yeah, it's different to me, man. You're there to me. You're there and you're there.
So, guys, thank you everyone for being with us and joining us for this episode of Opinions of the Uninformed. See you, kids.
Peace.
See you later.
Let me break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. Taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't never. So let me break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. Taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't here to make